Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my pleasure to welcome all our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the programme this week 4 exciting, talented, exceptional, exuberant players of the game who are going to display their talent, their verbal dexterity, their humorous inventiveness as they try and talk on the subject that I give them. And they do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 bright sparks are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Clement Freud, and seated on my left, Chris Neill and Greg Proops. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Beside me sits Charlotte Davies, who's going to help me keep a score. She has a whistle handy to blow when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute comes from the beautiful Theatre Royal, which has recently been refurbished in that magnificent cathedral city of Winchester. And we have a vociferous Hampshire audience in front waiting for us to start. And we'll begin with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject is Alfred the Great. What a fine subject to begin with. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
The Real Madrid team of 1960 featured Alfred Di Stefano and Ferenc Puskás. And I can't say his name again.
Greg, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes, indeed. Couldn't quite get the names of those Hungarians out. Right, there was... It was Puskás, wasn't it?
Puskás, and he played for... Di Stefano played for Real Madrid when they beat... it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. Greg, a correct challenge anyway. So you get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject. There are 53 seconds available. Alfred the Great, starting now.
Alfred the Great was known as the snappiest dresser of all the early English kings. Egbert was also known as a...
Chris, challenge.
Was there a repetition of no?
Yes, there was a repetition of known. So, Chris, you have the subject. We're going to hear from everybody in this round, I hope. 45 seconds available. You tell us something about Alfred the Great, starting now.
Alfred the Great, as we all know, burnt the cakes, which was unfortunate as he was training to be a pastry chef at Winchester Catering College at the time.
Oh, challenge.
Why would a man who was King of England be training at Winchester Catering College as a pastry chef? I mean, you know, it's deviation.
So what is your challenge?
It's a portfolio career.
No, I agree with deviation, but actually he also hesitated. But Paul, a correct challenge. You have a point for a correct challenge. 36 seconds. Alfred the Great, starting now.
It's one of those stories that we're told as children. I'm not quite sure what the moral is meant to be. As Chris mentioned, this Alfred had indeed burnt the cakes. What are we meant to glean from that story? I don't know. Perhaps somebody, when they take over the subject...
Clement, challenge.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, okay.
So, Clement, 25 seconds on Alfred the Great, starting now. So, Paul...
It's hesitation.
I know you bluffed him out of it.
I was waiting for dictation speed. I want to hear about it.
So, Paul, you take over the subject. 25 seconds on Alfred the Great, starting now.
Bruce Wayne, as Batman, needed to have a butler he could trust, and so he settled on Alfred. He was his manservant, and if you remember the comic strip or indeed the films, later when the caped crusader got himself a little sidekick by the name of Robin, always Alfred was in the background.
Clement, challenge.
It was a mistake.
But you can't remember what it was.
I shouldn't have challenged.
I know you shouldn't. You thought he repeated
sorry.
Alfred, and Alfred's on
Give
the
him
card.
a point.
Right. So, an incorrect challenge, Paul.
Yeah.
You still have the
Can I have
subject.
a bonus point?
No. No. 7 seconds on Alfred the Great, Paul, starting now.
I remember one adventure when they faced the Riddler, this extraordinary villain who stood in the middle of the Batcave and said to the 2 superheroes...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Paul Merton, and at the end of that round, he has taken a strong lead. He's got 5 points. And Greg, Chris and Clement all have 1 point each. And we move to Greg Proops. Greg, will you take the next subject? I don't know whether this has been chosen for you, but it's Zen Buddhism. But you can try and talk on the subject if you can. 60 seconds starting now.
Where I live in Hollywood, there are a series of belief systems that enable one to get ahead in show business. Kabbalah being the primary one of popularity at the moment. Zen Buddhism had its...
It's all right. I'm glad you restrained yourself. Paul, you challenged.
Oh, it's a shame. It was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation.
But if you're really a Buddhist, then you know that everything is everything.
Yeah.
46 seconds available. You tell us something about Zen Buddhism, Paul, starting now.
Zen Buddhism seeks that level that's known as nirvana. With me now, concentrate silently for the next 45 seconds. Who buzzed in?
Chris has challenged you during the 45 seconds.
Really?
Yes. But we will give you a bonus point because the audience enjoyed what you did and said so much. But Chris, you have a hesitation. Correct challenge for that. A point to you. 40 seconds. Zen Buddhism starting now.
If you're a Buddhist and you chant really well for it, you'll get a pair of Jimmy Choos by the weekend. It all comes to those who ask.
Oh, challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a definite hesitation.
Yeah.
You dried up, didn't you?
I've got nothing to say on it.
32 seconds. Zen Buddhism with you, Paul, starting now.
There was a popular book printed in the early 1970s, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and I believe it didn't really have particularly much to do with the repair of bicycles or mechanised wheels. It was more...
Clement challenged.
Repetition of repair.
No. No, and the audience said no as well.
They weren't listening.
I wasn't listening.
I think he did. He said,
and the repair.
Yes, that's right. A magazine to do with repair,
Yep.
and later on you went on to say they'd repair.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely certain. I did a quick recall in my mind, brought it from my subconscious,
In what?
ran the whole thing through, and there it was.
Did you? Do you want to lie down?
19 seconds for you, Clement, on Zen Buddhism, starting now.
In the Kilburn, Willesden, Howsden, Maida Vale and St John's Wood Under-18 Badminton League, the Zen Buddhists are absolutely sensationally ahead of all rivals. Look where you will, and nowhere, not even in Neasden or Wembley, would you find...
Clement Freud was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's still in second place behind Paul Merton. Chris Neill, you're in third place, and we'd like you to take you to the next round. The subject is how to write your autobiography. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
If you are a Shrek, looky-likey, potato-faced footballer called Wayne Rooney, you have to write your autobiography in 5 volumes. I do not understand why people think this is strange, because they forget that he can only write in crayon. Oh, I said...
Paul challenge.
Repetition of crayon.
Crayon, no.
I didn't get it out the first time,
You didn't get it out, no. It wasn't a repetition.
No, hesitation.
Yes, all right. 47 seconds, Paul. How to write your autobiography, starting now.
First, you should make sure you live a good and interesting life, perhaps one with a certain amount of longevity to it, so that when it comes to writing your autobiography, you're not filling it up with endless, deathless pages about the time you came to a particular gig and saw somebody do something that was once interesting to some people who are no longer with us.
Clement Freud challenge.
Repetition of some.
Yeah, some.
Some, yes, oh, yes.
Yes, there's definitely some
Yeah.
there. 27 seconds, Clement. How to write your autobiography, starting now.
How to write your autobiography in a word is by yourself. You take a pen, put it in your hand.
Paul challenge.
Well, by yourself is 2 words. In a word, by yourself.
Oh, I see, yes, in a word, by yourself.
That's what I,
Yeah, it's a bit pedantic. I think
is,
you let him have the benefit of the doubt. He
God
loves
forbid
it.
this game should ever be pedantic. He said aerosol.
But he has the benefit of the doubt.
He does, yeah.
And he loves his benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely.
And so, Clement, 20 seconds. How to write your autobiography, starting now.
I think give it the benefit of the doubt. Just sit down, remember where you were, when, what you did, and how. Clement Freud was born on the 24th of April 1900, in a year I can't mention, because it is the same date as that which I gave for the number...
So Clement Freud speaking as the whistle went, and with other points in the round he's moved forward. He's now 1 point behind Paul Merton, and Clement, it's your turn to begin. The subject is Picasso. Tell us something about that great painter in this game, starting now.
Picasso is the name of my tailor in Hua Hin in...
Chris challenge. There was a hesitation, right? 55 seconds for you, Chris, on Picasso, starting now.
Lee Ryan, who was in a boy band called, what was it?
Greg, you challenge.
Yes, it was confusion when boy bands entered his mind.
That's right. And he hesitated.
And then he hesitated when he thought about it.
That's the correct challenge. 52 seconds for you, Greg, on Picasso, starting now.
Of all of the great artists' periods, I think perhaps my favorite is the Cubist period, because I know the least about cubes. His blue era...
Chris, challenge.
That was it. Lee Ryan was in blue.
That's it, yeah.
So, Chris, you have him for hesitation. You get a point for that. And we give you a bonus point for the other laugh you afforded us with blue, Lee Ryan. Right, you've got 43 seconds now on Picasso, starting now.
Me?
Yes, Alfred.
I thought it was just a benefit of the doubt, bonusy thing.
No, you got the subject with the correct challenge.
Sorry.
You get a bonus
Well, it
point.
wasn't really.
Oh, shut up for a minute. Let me explain. I
hesitate.
gave you a bonus point because of what you said.
Yeah, but that's where I didn't think it was my subject.
Well, if you don't want it... You're
Well, I
gonna
think
give
I've lost it now, haven't I?
All right, so you've lost it to Paul. 42 seconds. Picasso, Paul, starting now.
I've got a print of a Picasso drawing back at home, which I recently saw.
Clement challenge.
A prince.
A print?
A print.
You said a prince.
I don't think you did.
Maybe it was the artist formerly known as Prince.
Give Greg a bonus for that remark. He deserves it. Over here it sounded like print.
Yeah.
You're closer to him. It maybe sounded like Prince to you. Benefit of the doubt to Paul Merton. Keeps the subject. 39 seconds and Picasso starting now.
Well, if one looks at his massive painting of the destruction of Guernica, one can see...
Clement challenged.
2 ones.
2 ones, yes, right. 33 seconds. Picasso with you, Clement, starting now.
When I met Picasso, he was living in Valoris, and he made huge amounts of money simply by getting the back of a paintbrush and putting P and a squiggle, which was his signature, onto the back of saucers, which were made...
Paul challenged.
We had back twice.
You did have back twice, I'm afraid, yes.
Well, he did it on the backs of all those...
It was his back period.
But if you repeat the word, it is incorrect in just a minute. So, Paul, 20 seconds. Tell us something more about Picasso, starting now.
He worked for the police as a while as one of those artists that draw pictures of people that you've seen committing various crimes. And there was a terrible man in Gothenburg got arrested 3 times because he had a nose in the middle of his face. And there was a list over here. And over the back here, it looked like somebody else. Picasso was a wonderful man. He was about 80 when he was knocking out all these 15-year-old girls. And wonderful. He'd come round his house, say, paint my pictures. I'd be pleased to do that.
That last little sequence of yours, Paul, was a tour de force. And you deserve the extra point for speaking as the whistle went. And you've moved forward. You're ahead of Clement Freud and a few more ahead of Chris Neill and Greg Proops in that order. And it's also your turn to begin. The subject now is the local high street. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Well, the local high street here in Winchester is probably one of the best high streets I've ever seen in my life. You're joking, aren't you?
You wicked so-and-so.
I haven't even seen it. I just came straight here from the station.
I know. And you build them up and they think, what a lovely fella. And then you knock them down like that. Well, Chris, you challenge.
There's a hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. So you have the subject of the local high street and there are 50 seconds starting now.
I must say I disagree with Paul regarding the local high street here. It's the kind of place where you can buy a design...
Greg challenge.
Slight hesitation.
Slight hesitation.
And a little repetition.
And no, just as hesitation. Hesitation. One challenge is enough, Craig.
Thank you, Nicholas.
44 seconds, the local high street starting now.
The local high street is one of the most magnificent places in all of Winchester. Some people prefer the cathedral, but I prefer the Rymans.
Repetition of prefer.
You preferred too much.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm often told that.
Paul, a correct challenge. 37 seconds. The local high street starting now.
When you walk down the local high street here, you do it with pride. There's Timothy White's at one end.
Clement challenge.
Hesitation.
No. Not quite. No. He was right in the laugh. No. He was close to it, but not quite. No. Benefit of the doubt to Paul. 30 seconds, Paul. The local high street starting now. Paul! Oh, Chris has challenged it.
I didn't hear you say now.
You didn't think you got it, did you?
No.
Well, Chris has challenged you.
Did you say now? Go now.
Yes, yes.
Did you?
Yes, definitely.
I must have been asleep.
I know. You nodded off for a
Yeah,
bit.
I think must have been those pills I bought from Timothy White.
I know. Timothy White's. Oh, it's my youth. Right. 30 seconds, Chris, on the local high street, starting now.
You haven't asked me what my challenge is.
It doesn't matter, we all know. It's
No, I was going to say,
hesitation.
Timothy White doesn't exist anymore, does
No.
it?
I know,
It
that's
hasn't
why
existed
we're all
for 35
laughing.
years.
I used to love Timothy White's in Twickenham. We used to go there on a Saturday before we went to Sandy's, the fishmongers next door. What a laugh.
Oh, tons.
Deviation.
What?
It's got nothing to do with Timothy White's.
I know, but he's not actually got the subject.
I see. Well, what are we listening to him for then?
Because he suddenly went off to tell a little anecdote about Timothy White's. He's on another planet.
We used to get homemade
No,
wine.
No, Chris, please. Greg Proops challenge first. Hesitation. You're on 30 seconds. The local... The local high street starting now.
Though the local high street enjoys enormous popularity, the German market of Winchester is where all of the good burgers meet. Christmas time is the most festive time here at...
Clement challenge.
Repetition of time.
Too many times, I'm afraid. Yes, it's a tough game, isn't it?
It really is, man.
20 seconds with
That's
you,
fair.
Clement, on the local high street starting now.
My local high street is in Marylebone, and we've just had a travel agent who set up shop. As my eldest daughter lives in France, I went in and said I would like a return ticket to Paris. And the girl looked at me and said, "You're a star." And I said, "Well, I used..."
Paul, you challenged.
Can I withdraw my challenge? It was a sort of hesitation, but...
No, but I'm going to allow it because I think they enjoyed the
Yeah.
idea of what he said so much. So, benefit of the doubt, Clement, which you love. And you've got that, so keep the subject, and we'll hear the rest of the story with 3 seconds to go, starting now.
We also have a fishmonger where you can eat in the back of the...
So Clement Freud was again speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's moved forward, but he's only still 2 behind Paul Merton, but he's quite a few ahead of Chris Neill, and then comes Greg Proops. But Chris, it's your turn to begin. The subject, the round table. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Like the Holy Grail, there is a certain round table of legend. Unlike the former thing that I mentioned, you can still buy one of the round tables at IKEA, though, so that's handy. There was a time when, at the round table, King Arthur would sit there, and on his right hand was Lancelot, and...
Paul challenged.
Hesitation.
There was, you put a definite in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Was he sitting on his right hand?
Well, no, on his...
How did he cut up his dinner? They were very close.
They were very close, yes.
Very close, weren't they? But they're very close, weren't they, Nicholas?
Yes, they were having a sort of intimate relationship.
Yeah,
that
you
way.
were court jester, weren't you?
Yes.
He was born in 1168, do you know that? 1168.
But actually, for someone
amazing.
born in 1168, I have worn quite well, haven't I?
Yeah, you have, yeah.
Yes, right.
Somebody born in the 20th century, you're a disaster. But born in 1168, absolutely wonderful.
It was a joy to work with you. Right. You have a correct challenge. 42 seconds, Paul. The round table starting now.
Camelot had his own dance teacher, Sir Prancelot, who used to come along every day and say, "I am going to teach everybody how to do Charleston." Merlin wasn't particularly happy with this because he saw himself as a wizened old man, a magician, somebody who was in touch with the powers of the universe. He didn't want to do the foxtrot. Oh, no! He was terrible at it anyway. Genevieve walked in and she said, "Where's Guinevere?" She said, "It's over there."
Clement challenged.
I thought there were 2 Guineveres.
No, one was Genevieve.
Genevieve and whatever, yeah.
Guinevere. She
Genevieve
wasn't-
was a car.
Yeah.
Your challenge was actually incorrect because it was Guinevere and Guinevere.
We are relying on eyewitness testimony here.
Paul, you have the benefit of the doubt. You keep the subject. 13 seconds. The round table starting now.
When I bought my first flat, I was very keen that the first...
Clement challenge, yes.
Hesitation and repetition.
Yes, you can have them both, but only
Yes.
1 point. 9 seconds on the round table starting now.
There are no sides on a round table, which is how you can tell its circularity. If you say...
Paul challenge.
The top side is the underside.
That's a very good point. We'll give you a bonus point for it. But actually, what Clement was demonstrating, I think we all knew, was that there's no sides around the table.
Ah, yes.
So I will accept the fact that Clement was correct, and he keeps the subject, and there are 3 seconds, the round table, Clement, starting now.
I had several round tables in my youth. At the end,
So Clement was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He keeps moving forward, keeps catching up Paul, but doesn't yet overtake him. He's still 2 points behind him, but quite a few ahead of Chris Neill and Greg Proops, equal in 3rd place. Clement Freud, your turn to begin. The subject, breaking news. Will you tell us something about breaking news in this game, starting now?
I don't know why it's called breaking news, like breaking wind. It's...
It's challenged.
It was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation, yes.
I wanted you to think about it.
Right.
I got that.
I got it. We got the whiff right over here. Oh, I dry myself up sometimes.
When the nurses aren't here, you have to.
It's amazing to be in a show where you can actually get hysterical. Chris.
You want to be sitting out there.
Chris, a correct challenge. 54 seconds, breaking news starting now.
As Clement implied, in polite circles it's much more preferable to break news than it is wind. And there's a good reason for that, is because if you break news, it tends to be behind a screen. At that point, I feel that...
Paul Giles.
There was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation,
No,
yes.
absolutely.
I don't know why you should break the news
I don't know. I've just got to keep saying words, am I?
behind a screen.
Well, no, breaking news is behind a screen, isn't it? Because on the television. No, I mean, if I break the news to you, Nicholas, that I find you bloody gorgeous, I realise that is in person. But where most times you go, oh, there's some breaking news coming in, it's behind a screen because it's somebody on the telly telling you.
Are we actually playing right now?
You're talking rubbish.
Don't knock it, it's been working for 40 years.
All right, Paul, 41 seconds available. Breaking news starting now.
When you hear breaking news, you think to yourself, my God, what an interesting story, because these news channels that broadcast 24 hours a day say, oh, the news is happening all the time. But of course it isn't. It's happening basically in very small doses.
Greg challenge.
Repetition of happening?
Yeah.
Yes, happening. Well, listen, Greg.
Yep.
There are 30 seconds. You tell us something about breaking news starting now.
The difference between the news in England and America is that in the United...
Oh, dear, yes.
I know what I did.
What did you do?
And for that I should be punished.
26 seconds, Paul. Breaking news starting now.
1912, the sinking of the Titanic. Before multimedia, there was many weeks passed before people realised there'd actually been some incident out at sea. There was a bloke staying at New York.
Clement challenge.
has it sunk?
Right, Clement, we give you a bonus point because that was...
Did you get return tickets?
You really learned something on this.
Yeah.
Yes. Paul, you weren't interrupted. Clement's got his bonus. You've got a point for being interrupted. And the 16 seconds breaking news starting now.
During the Boer War, I believe, it was the Times that printed pictures from the battlefields, and people back home looked at this coverage and thought, oh my God, there's some terrible carnage happening on the other side of the world. Before that, people didn't really realise...
Clement challenge.
I'm afraid people.
Yes, you did repeat people. And Clement, you've got him with 2 seconds to go on breaking news starting now.
Salamanca, Victoria, Toulouse and Waterloo.
Right, so we're moving into the final round. Let me give you the situation. Clement Freud and Paul Merton are equal in the lead, quite a few points ahead of Chris Neill, who was 1 or 2 points ahead of Greg Proops. And Greg, it's your turn to begin, and we'd like you to tell us something about how to throw a great party. 60 seconds starting now.
First, you must go to the supermarket and get as many victuals as humanly possible. Booze, chips, soup, nippy...
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes and no.
Someone in the front went, yes.
I know, and some on the other side said no. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because he was teetering on hesitation,
Yeah.
but didn't quite achieve it.
Okay.
So,
But With practice, he'll get there.
Yes, right.
Watch me work.
Greg Proops, you have How to Throw a Great Party. You have 51 seconds starting now.
The best party.
Chris, challenge.
Deviation, because earlier on he said that the things you need are booze, something soup, and something called nippy. What's nippy?
Don't ask him questions. What's your challenge?
Well, deviation, you don't need nippy to make a great party.
Well, maybe Greg Proops needs plenty of nippy to make
What
it
is
great
it?
party.
You haven't met Nippy. She's fantastic.
Oh, yes. Right. 51 seconds for How to Throw a Great Party, Craig, starting now.
It's important to have twice as many women at a party as men. Then...
Chris, challenge.
It really isn't.
Chris, we give you a bonus point because they enjoyed your remark, so he keeps the subject, and there are 39 seconds. How to Throw a Great Party, Greg, starting now.
Being from San Francisco, it's often difficult to determine whose gender is whose at a party. Therefore, the idea that there'd be females and males at the same party is a fluid notion that one comes about when one has imbibed a certain amount of controlled substances, perhaps in a closet or out in front on the porch, as we would say. Maybe here you might...
Paul, challenge.
It was hesitation.
Yeah, there was hesitation there. Paul.
He was making me nervous by looking at me.
Paul, the correct challenge. 18 seconds. How to Throw a Great Party, starting now.
If you get hold of Nicholas Soames, Conservative MP, who is by his own admission a great party, and lift him up by the legs, get the window pushed so it's completely open, and chuck him out so he hits the floor, that would be, in many senses, throwing a great party. And what a wonderful splash it would make.
Well, with that clever interpretation of the subject, Paul Merton not only kept going, but brought his round to the end, and he brought the show to an end. So it only remains for me to give you the final score. Greg Proops finished in a magnificent 4th place, and Chris Neill, he did very well, finished in a very good 3rd place, and Paul got an extra 2 points at the end, and is finished just ahead of Clement Freud. So we say this week, Paul Merton, you are our winner. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 magnificent players of the game. Paul Merton, Greg Proops, Chris Neill and Clement Freud. I thank Charlotte Davis, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle with great style and aplomb. And also we're indebted to our producer, Talusha Galani. And we're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very indebted to this lovely audience here at the Theatre Royal, Winchester, who've cheered us on our way. And they seem to have enjoyed themselves. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and from the panel, thank you for tuning in. Tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Till then, goodbye.
There are more Just a Minute shenanigans with Nicholas & Co. next Monday, and you can hear that show again just after the midday news on Sunday.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting and diverse personalities who this week are going to play Just a Minute. And seated on my right, we welcome back with great pleasure that outstanding comedian and that delightful performer, Paul Merton. And seated beside him, the senior player of this game who contributes with such wit and erudition on occasions, that is Clement Freud. And seated on my left, a lovely actress, comedy performer, writer, journalist, McErlane. And seated beside her, another wit, a man who writes wonderful lyrics, he performs, he's in cabaret, and an all-round writer. Anyway, that is Kit Hesketh-Harvey. Would you please welcome all 4 of them? And seated beside me is Charlotte Assembly Hall Theatre in that lovely spa town of Tunbridge Wells. And we have a group of people in the audience who are obviously high on the waters. And anxious for a start. So we'll begin the show with Paul Merton. And Paul, actually the next subject is the first one, taking the waters. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Well, it's a polite version of taking the urine, and I wouldn't expect anything less in Tunbridge Wells. It's an extremely polite society. You walk around, people doff their caps, men and women greet each other at the railway stations, kiss, embrace, an orgy on platform 5 is a regular thing on a Monday.
And... Kit, you've challenged.
I'm spring to the defence of Tunbridge Wells, where I was raised. He's not talking about taking the waters at all.
Yes, I think
Deviation.
that's right. He's deviated from the waters, talking about the wonderful
the
people of
politesse
Tunbridge
of these
Wells.
good people. But
Yes.
I'm worried about platform 5.
Every Monday.
Every Monday, right. Kit, that was a correct challenge. Deviation, so you get a point for that. You take over the subject. There are 47 seconds available. Taking the waters, starting now.
They call it a chalybeate spring. It's actually a mispronunciation of chalybiat from the Greek, and it's a filthy thing, like a car sump down in the Pantiles. And it's now surrounded entirely by Indian restaurants, which has the same purgative effect. But in 1606, I think it was, there was a young nobleman who had a hangover, and he stooped down and took these waters and fired him up with iron and blood and heaven knows.
Clement challenged.
Behind repetition, hesitation.
All of them, I think, probably.
Mostly.
I didn't notice any.
Fire and fire.
He was getting, what, fire?
Fire.
Far, far.
We shouldn't say fire too often in a packed theatre.
The audience were laughing so much I didn't hear him repeat fire. So, did you repeat fire?
I probably did.
Oh,
Clement
right,
is
well
very,
done. Very
heaven
honest.
to that, no.
I think you said fire and fired.
Oh, really? Oh, Maria. I'll see you on
audience have-
platform 5 later.
Audience have endorsed it. Thank you for helping your friend. There we are. So, you have a point for an incorrect challenge there, Kit.
I say.
And you keep the subject. And you have 22 seconds, taking the waters, starting now.
And the Georgian gentry flocked down here in their pretty little muslin bonnets, just like something out of Jane Austen. They had assemblies and routs, and they drank sherbet, and they had...
Paul challenged.
We're quite a lot of they.
a lot
Yes,
of days,
a lot
yes,
of
they were
days,
quite
yes.
right. I was
So,
getting tangled.
too much of they. So, Paul, the correct challenge, a point to you. 12 seconds available. Taking the waters, starting now.
When Pink Floyd reformed to appear at the last concert, Roger Waters took his place as the bassist.
Maria, you've challenged.
Well, they didn't actually reform, it was just a one-off gig.
When they reformed,
No.
Oh, darling,
they
that's
were
a
together
bit...
on stage. They reformed for that gig.
I think that was a bit
That's pedantic of me.
Yes, I think so. It was lovely to hear from you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Nicola.
But you have a point, Paul, and 5 seconds. Taking the waters, starting now.
If you wake up in the morning and you look out to the sun, you think to yourself, I want to rehydrate myself.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and on this occasion it was Paul Merton who has a strong lead at the end of that round. And Kit, will you please take the next round? The subject, in the back of my mind. There are 60 seconds available, and you start now.
The very smell of this room, of the people of Tunbridge Wells, is bringing back in a Proustian way my teenage years spent in this fabulous borough. I attended a local boarding school and worked as a barman at the dear old Spa Hotel. Is it still there? Dispensing pink gins to the local colonels.
Paul challenged.
Well, deviation, this is underage employment. He's a teen. He's working in a bar, serving up drinks. You've got to be 18 to work in a bar.
Mopping up, I was.
Mopping up.
Well, he didn't establish what
No, he
age
didn't establish that
was.
at all, did he? Very good chairman. Very good chairman. Best chairman we've got.
Didn't
Best
say-
chairman we've
He
got.
could actually have been 18 years of age when he was doing it. So he didn't establish the age. So, no, I don't think it was deviation. So, Kit, you still have the subject. And you have another point. And you have in the back of my mind, 43 seconds starting now.
In the back of my mind, I remember working as a petrol pump attendant at nearby Southborough. I bet I've shoved my nozzle up a few of you in my time. And then I went on beautiful bike rides. How it is all returning to me now through Hawkhurst, Goudhurst, Speldhurst, Penshurst, William Randolph.
Paul, you challenged.
Well, I know it's all one word, but we're getting a lot of Hurst, one after the other. I'm waiting
No,
for
but actually individually they're all different words. All Goudhurst, yes. They're all spelled different. So anyway, but Kit, an incorrect challenge. 25 seconds still available. Carry on within the back of my mind.
Rabbiting down...
Clement challenge.
Hesitation.
No. Another point to Kit. And 24.5 seconds starting now.
Tickling trout in the lush meadows down at Fordham or at Groombridge Place.
Paul Challenge.
Deviation. If you're tickling trout in a meadow, there's something wrong with the trap. You want to give it a kiss of life, never mind trying to tickle it. You're a keen fisherman, you know about these things, don't you, Nicholas?
Oh, yes, but I wouldn't trickle my trout in the meadow.
No.
But I haven't taken many trouts into meadows, actually. I leave them to other people. Now,
That's very generous of you.
yes. I think, logically, you have a good challenge, and you've been trying very hard throughout this round to get in. So you have the benefit of the doubt, and 22 seconds in the back of my mind, Paul, starting now.
In the back of my mind, I always think of the wonderful spa town of Tunbridge Wells. Coming out of the station and walking up the hill, it's a 1.4 gradient. I don't know if you're aware of that, but the local guidebook points out that this hillock has in fact been there for several centuries. What better way there is to suck up to an audience than to pretend you are from the area and talk about all kinds of arcane things of no interest to listeners outside of the surroundings.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's moved forward, he's increased his lead. But Hesketh-Harvey got lots of points in the round. He's only 4 points behind him. Then it's Marian and Clement Freud in that order. And Clement, it's your turn to begin. And the subject we have here is the last resort. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I think it was Dr. Johnson who said patriotism is the last resort of a scoundrel, but it's unimportant to name the person. Let me explain that the last resort where I live in Suffolk, starting at Aldeburgh and going through Leiston, Dunwich, Walberswick, Southwell, Cove Highs, Lowestoft is the last resort. And I think absolutely rightly, because they do...
Maria challenge.
Well, I just think that was a list, wasn't it?
It was a list.
Is that allowed?
Yes, it's
of
very...
resorts.
Yes.
Coming to the last
He didn't
resort.
repeat anything.
If there can only be one
resort
last...
if you don't mention the previous resort.
Leytonstone?
I mean, there's no rule which says you can't have a list, as long as you don't repeat anything, deviate or hesitate.
But it was about the last resort. And he mentioned
When
many
he
other
came to the
resorts.
last resort, I think he said Lowestoft was the last one.
Yeah.
So he did actually say that.
Right.
And
I'm quite new to this.
I know. But Clement's very clever at the way he plays the game.
But he does always do lots of lists.
He does, and it's very funny, actually.
Yes, I'm sorry. I made a terrible error. I don't know what I was thinking
I'll tell you
of.
something else, because I've tried it. It is actually difficult to do, because you do begin to hesitate as you try to remember all the different places or words or whatever you have. So he has a point for an incorrect challenge, Maria. I'm sorry about that. You have the audience on your side.
Thank you very much.
But I have to be fair within the rules of just a minute. Clement, you have 33 seconds to continue on the last resort, starting now.
The word resort would come from the French sortir, to get out, which is exactly what one should do from a resort, unless, of course, it is Tunbridge Wells, which I seem to remember is twinned with Sadler's Wells, which I think is
All challenged.
Repetition of Wells.
Yes. So, Paul, another correct challenge. 18 seconds available. The last resort, starting now.
Jonathan Ross started his TV career at...
Kit, you challenged.
Sorry, hesitation.
He did hesitate.
Yes.
Why? Because he did start it last...
He did, yeah.
With
I
a
was gonna
programme
say-
called The Last Resort.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be Pete Television again. But I'd said TV, so I stopped myself for no reason whatsoever.
I know.
Give me the benefit of that.
No, I've given you one benefit. You can't have it two
Really?
so soon. No.
When can I have the next benefit of the doubt?
When you deserve it.
Okay.
Right. 16 seconds for you, Kit, on The Last Resort, starting now.
Heading diametrically away from...
Who challenged? Paul?
Do I deserve it yet? Is it now?
No, but what you deserve now is a bonus point because they enjoyed your interruption there. But Kit gets a point because he was interrupted, keeps the subject, and there are 15 seconds, the last resort, starting now.
In the opposite direction, one comes to the Minnock Theatre in Cornwall, where, as a young TV, I appeared in the Duchess of Plaza Toro's role in The Gondoliers.
Paul Challenge.
Sorry, did you say as a young TV?
Yes. It wasn't a repetition of TV, because I hadn't said it earlier. You had earlier, but I think...
You appeared as a young TV.
I was playing the Duchess of Plaza Toro.
Do you mean transvestite?
Yes. I wanted to spare the people of Tunbridge Wells who didn't know that sort of thing.
What size TV were you?
Yeah.
I was widescreen, big boy.
So you came on stage as a television?
As a television.
Well, I can't...
If there was ever a case of benefit of the doubt...
It's not impossible that you could have dressed up. It kind of been a sort of pantomime-type show.
It was. It was the Duchess of Plaza Torre, who's very
Well,
much
all right. We give you the benefit of the doubt. He could have come on dressed as a TV, couldn't he? He could have had a cabinet all over him. I went as a little boy to a fancy dress party dressed as Humpty Dumpty. They made me look exactly like Humpty Dumpty.
Is that where you met Charlie Chaplin?
No, but Nicholas, haven't we already established that he did come on dressed as a transvestite? Is that wrong to say on Radio 4?
Yes.
Oh, he did. That's what he said.
That was my point. Yes, I was in the travesty role. So I was transvesti.
Yes.
As the Duchess of Plaza Torre.
Can I get this right?
Yes.
Nicholas, you've given Kit the decision because you once dressed up as Humpty Dumpty at a kid's party.
That's got nothing to do with it, because I was trying to illustrate the fact that in this particular production down in Cornwall, Kit put on a suit which looked like a television set, so he came on as a TV.
No, I was the Duchess of Plaza Torre. I had to sing...
He was dressed as a woman.
Well,
You do it yourself, Nicholas, all the time.
Where does the TV come in?
TV means transvestite.
Oh, I see. I'm of a different generation. Oh, I know about transvestites, but I didn't know... You said a transvestite. I don't know what you're talking
but
about.
is that allowed in the rules of Just a Minute to use initials?
I think in that case I have a right to an answer. What size TV were you?
Yes. You see, Clement's of a similar generation, so he thought you were talking about a TV.
No, he didn't. He was making a very funny joke.
We made a joke, yes, because it was a good joke anyway. If he was a television, it was a very good joke. But you don't say what size transvestite were you.
I've got 50 quid in my pocket that says, let's forget the last 10 minutes.
I would put 50 quid on the fact that was one of the best 10 minutes we've had. There you are, so they enjoy that. I don't know where we are, but I don't know who has the benefit of that.
Tunbridge Wells.
I think now the only thing I can do is to give the benefit of the doubt to Kit Hesketh-Harvey and say you have the last resort and you have 6 seconds starting now.
Unfortunately, it was directly above a sewage outflow into the Bay of Marian. There was a definite whiff, which made this particular last resort not at all.
Well, Kit, with his transvesticism, got quite a few points in that round and has moved rapidly forward. He's only one behind our leader, Paul Merton. And, Paul, we're back with you to begin. What a lovely topical subject. Disgusted of Tunbridge Wells. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I believe it was a phrase popularised by the satirical magazine Private Eye in the 1960s. They would often read spoof letters from people in Tunbridge Wells and mark it down as disgusted from Tunbridge Wells. But as I walk around this beautiful Tunbridge Wells place that's called Tunbridge Wells, I think to myself, I remember my school days. Me and Kit would run together through meadows, tickling trout, picking up octopus and throwing them over hedgerows. What a wonderful time it was to pick up seafood.
Kit, your challenge.
A repetition of wonderful, although it was.
It was hilarious.
Yes, it was hilarious.
It was idyllic, Nicholas, to be young in Tunbridge Wells.
No, it was, exactly. It was so enjoyable. I wish they'd let you go, because you were going into the realm of the surreal, of which you're so good. But anyway, Kit interrupted you, and you did repeat wonderful. 32 seconds, disgusted of Tunbridge Wells. Kit, starting now.
Disgusted of Tunbridge Wells has a great deal to be disgusted about. Decimus Burton, our fabulous architect here, is now mistaken for a chain of clothing retailers. Tunbridge Ware doesn't come from... Oh, no, I really had that in mind.
Maria, you got in that time.
Not called Tunbridge Ware.
No, it's hesitation.
Yes.
Right, 17 seconds. Disgusted of Tunbridge Wells is with you, starting now.
Disgusted of Tunbridge Wells is a shorthand way of describing the sort of person who may write venomous and poisonous letters to TV stations.
Paul challenge.
That was a hesitation.
That was a
Oh,
hesitation,
curses.
yes. Oh, yes.
When I say TV stations,
Paul,
I meant
disgusted
television.
of Tunbridge... Paul, you had a correct challenge. You have 8 seconds. Disgusted of Tunbridge Wells, starting now.
Dear British Broadcasting Corporation, I attended a performance of Just a Minute in Tunbridge Wells last week and was horrified by what Nicholas Parsons was wearing. He's a transvestite!
So, Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point has increased his lead at the end of that round over Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Maria McErlane and Clement Freud in that order. So, right, Maria, would you take the next round? The subject is meat and two veg. Good subject. Tell us something about meat and two veg, Maria. 60 seconds, starting now.
Meat and two veg is often described as a balanced meal. It's also used about the contents of a gentleman's underpants. Now, having watched a bush tucker trial on the recent I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, I watched somebody eating a kangaroo's testicles, and from the...
Paul, challenge.
That's very difficult. Is the kangaroo bouncing up and down like this? How the hell do you get that on a plate? Do you grip the back of the kangaroo and chomp in mid-stride? What goes on? Deviation, you can't...
Well, I think she didn't establish it, but I think we assumed that they had been taken off and fried first. But well, we did enjoy what you said, Paul, so we give you a bonus point for that. The audience loved it. But, Maria, you were interrupted. So you still have meat and two veg, and you have 41 seconds starting now.
They were taken off and they were raw, and I would put any money on the fact that they were not vegetables.
Clement challenge.
Repetitions, they were.
They were. Yes, they were.
They weren't
right.
vegetables.
So, Clement, you got in with meat and two testicles. I'm sorry. Which would have been a very good subject, but actually it's meat and two veg, Clement. 34 seconds starting now.
I met this woman and I said, do let us try and meat and two veg. And she said, where? Cauliflower, I said,
Paul
leek.
challenged.
Hesitation?
There was a hesitation, I'm afraid,
There's
Clement,
a
yes.
question mark, which does...
26 seconds available, Paul. Meat and two veg starting now.
I'm sitting next to Clement Freud, who of course is a...
Clement challenged.
Nothing to do with the subject.
No, but he
Well,
was...
I had been going for 6 words.
He only had 6 words. He was probably leading on to saying that it reminded him of meat and two veg or something. I don't know.
No.
You must have the chance
Deviation,
to
he-
establish it.
I wasn't going to say that.
Weren't you?
No.
Well, it doesn't matter.
In that case, it's deviation.
No. It was a good try, Clement, and it's not even worth the benefit of the doubt. I'm
How
afraid.
about a bonus point?
You've had plenty of those in your time, but not on this occasion. 24 seconds, Paul. Meat and two veg starting now.
He's a very skilled chef, and I'm sure could regale us with all kinds of recipes for meat and two veg. My own particular favourite, and although I'm not a culinary expert in any stretch at all, I would say that my favourite two veg...
Ah, Clement, yes.
Favourite?
Favourite.
Oh, yes.
Repetition, yes. 13 seconds, Clement. Meat and two veg starting now.
She sits among the cauliflowers and peas was something which the censor thought was terribly wrong, and so the Victorian music hall actress was asked to change the words and made them, I sit among...
Oh, Clement Freud speaking then as the whistle went. Move forward, and he's equal with Maria McErlane in third place, just behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey, who's just behind Paul Merton. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. So, would you take the subject of ducking and diving? 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Ducking and diving, it's what Cockneys say to each other when you're staying one step ahead of the game. I was doing a bit of ducking and diving, do you know what I mean? Up round the houses, band the band, out the corner, out the back. And it's the sort of thing that they say. It doesn't really mean anything.
Kit challenge.
Lots of says there, weren't there?
Yes, the sort of thing that Cockneys say and I'm going to say. Right, 48 seconds. Ducking and diving with you, Kit, starting now.
Lawrence of Arabia did a lot of ducking and diving during the Sinai War, escaping from the Turks who were trying to attack him in Deria. Not a very good place to be attacked. He managed to duck and dive by eating his camels having ridden them, which was pretty good, and you can't do that with a Morris Marina, can you? Ducking and diving is better than bobbing and weaving, for example, if you're being attacked. Why?
Clement challenge.
Deviation, I don't think so.
Well, I think it's a matter of opinion, and...
Well, he said, as if it were a fact.
In his mind, it is a fact, and you can only speak from your own personal experience. And in this game, you speak from personal experience. And his personal experience, ducking and diving, is better than bobbing and weaving. So he has to have the natural benefit of the doubt. In fact, I think he's absolutely accurate. I give it to him anyway. 26 seconds, ducking and diving with you, kids, starting now.
Because if you are being attacked, why would you bring out a loom and some tapestry?
Maria, challenge.
I think we've had attacked.
Yes, he was attacked before, wasn't he?
Well done, Maria.
You were attacked in Deria.
Yes.
He was attacked. Maria. There's no need to underline it, darling. There are 23 seconds, Maria, on ducking and diving, starting now.
Ducking and diving is not allowed in the shallow end of the swimming pool. Neither is heavy petting, bombing, smoking cigarettes, taking drugs, using heavy machinery, eating beans on toast, going to the loo, hopping on one leg, doing the long jump.
Clement, you challenged.
I thought there was an element of deviation in being in the shallow end of a swimming pool and going to the loo. You have to get out.
You mean you always go at the deep end, do you?
I go from the diving board. And it also was a bit of a list, wasn't it?
It was a great list.
And she was a list, wasn't it? This,
Yeah, we
She was
don't
getting
like
back at Clement over his list.
We don't like lists. We never like lists in Tunbridge Wells.
Well, listen, this is the penultimate round, so I don't think, Clement, your challenge is correct. You've got 2 seconds, so keep going. Ducking and diving, starting now.
Ducking and diving, ducking and diving, ducking and... Did I do a whole minute?
Maria
Did I
was
do a whole
speaking
minute,
then, the
Nicholas?
whistle went. And what's that?
Did I do a whole minute there?
No, Paul started with the subject. You're going to begin the next round. It's going to be the last round, so you might go for a whole minute, and you're in 4th place, but it's a very good 4th place. But you're only 1 point behind Clement Freud, and only 2 points behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey, a few more behind Paul Merton, as we move into the final round. And so, Maria, will you take the final round? The subject is off the record. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Off the record is a term often used when talking to journalists when you don't want them to print what you are talking about. Whereupon they are meant to turn off the tape recorder so you can tell them about your sexual lusting of heifers in fields. But I urge you to stop talking, Maria, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Carry on.
Oh no, you were making... I don't need to be patronised, Nicholas.
You're not being patronised. The audience
We just want to
it.
hear about your...
We want to hear about off the record.
No, I knew that I was repeating myself and hesitating.
No, but carry on. No one's challenging.
No.
Keep going.
Okay.
Clement is challenged.
Repetition.
Right. Of what?
The silence.
Absolutely, yes. Clement, how well you listened there. You have the subject with 40 seconds to go off the record, starting now.
40 seconds?
Yes. Paul challenged.
Accurate timekeeping. Deviation, he's not talking about off the record.
No, he wasn't.
No.
And you've got 38 seconds, Paul, off the record, starting now.
When I was about 13, I had a little tape recorder. I used to tape records, gramophone records and things like that, and it would be...
Kit challenged.
So repetition of records, because it's actually off the record.
Somebody on the card is off the record, and you had records
tape
twice.
as
well, yeah.
A lot of repetition.
Repetition of tape.
Yes.
Just loops. Went round and round.
Kit, 32 seconds available, off the record, starting now.
Off the record, and I can feel I can share it with a room as sensitive as you, and in these discreet setting, I can reveal that I was married in a civil ceremony to Nicholas Parsons earlier this year. We betokened...
Paul, you've challenged.
Nicholas, is this true?
Well, I don't remember it.
Well, the fact you don't remember it, there's no indication of anything, is it?
As far as I know, it has deviation.
Yes, well, you know. I think we're more liberal than that these days, aren't we?
Even in Tunbridge Wells.
Yeah.
Even in Tunbridge Wells, yes. I mean, we did talk about transvesticism earlier on, but even so, I don't remember a marriage. So...
that must hit home, Kit. That's terrible.
Very
You
painful,
remember a
very
marriage.
painful. Not what you said to me and the frangipani as you strewed it across the bed and you slipped out of your shantung silk. He was a tender but urgent and inventive lover that night.
Did he take you there as well? I've been there twice.
Audience, I do assure you, what Kit is saying is not true. I did not have a wedding in Tunbridge Wells. Not a Kit, anyway. Paul, it's a correct challenge. 20 seconds off the record, starting now.
Many years ago, I was interviewed by a journalist for the Sunday Times, and I was rather a little bit indiscreet with what I said, because I happened to mention a couple of things about Just a Minute, and I pointed out that Nicholas Parsons is in the habit of marrying panellists on the show. Ironically, Maria's the only woman here who hasn't had, well, I say she's, well, in fact, what you should say.
Clement, you challenge.
Hesitation.
I think there was a hesitation.
Really?
He stumbled there and so forth.
Yeah.
And you know, Clement, you've cleverly got in with half a second to go. Off the record, Clement, starting now.
Off the...
Well, let me give you the final score in this particular show. Maria McErlane, who hasn't played the game quite as frequently as others, came along but did very well, but finished in a fine 4th place. And she was 2 or 3 points behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey in 3rd place, and he was 2 or 3 points behind Clement Freud in 2nd place, and they were all quite a few points behind Paul Merton, who we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Maria McErlane and Clement Freud. And I also thank Charlotte Davis, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle with great elegance throughout the show. We are grateful to our producer, to Lucia Galani, and also we're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we are very grateful to this lovely audience in the Assembly Hall Theatre here in Tunbridge Wells, who've cheered us on our way. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 individual and talented players of this game. And seated on my right, we have that delightful actor, comedian, writer, all-round good egg and performer, Marcus Brigstocke. And beside him, we have a man who is not only a writer, but a journalist and ex-politician, that is Clement Freud. And seated on my left, we have another ex-politician, also a prolific writer, presenter, and that is Gyles Brandreth. And seated beside Gyles Brandreth, we have that lovely Irish comedian from the Emerald Isle, Father Ted and other credits to her name, and a very fine writer as well. That is Pauline McLynn. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Charlotte Davis, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the delightful Mermaid Theatre down on the edge of the Thames. And we have a wonderful cosmopolitan London audience in front of us, ready for us to get going. So let's start the show with Clement Freud. Clement, the subject, very apt, mermaids. Tell us something about mermaids in Just a Minute, starting now.
I loathe mermaids. I have in the flat in which I live a notice which says no hawkers, canvassers or mermaids, which I think is absolutely right. They don't pay any charges or rates. They can't even open their legs.
Gyles, you've challenged.
I felt there was a slight hesitation, but maybe I was
No, he was just getting up steam.
I'm so sorry. Because of the steam, I couldn't see his lips.
You haven't played it. All right, give him a bonus point. We love the remark you made. But Clement, an incorrect challenge, so you have a point for that. You keep the subject, and there are 46 seconds available, starting now.
There are a number of things which you shouldn't give a mermaid for Christmas, like a bicycle.
Marcus, you challenged.
Yes, there was a hesitation after the
There definitely
bicycle.
was a hesitation. He thought of the bicycle and the mermaid on it, and he came to a halt. Marcus, there are 38 seconds still available. The subject is mermaids, and you start now.
The only thing I know for sure about mermaids is that they make the most useless girlfriends. It is enormously difficult to find a sensible place to take a mermaid out for dinner. The reason being that they will only eat fish, and...
Clement, you challenged.
Yes.
Well,
They don't only eat fish. I know several carnivorous mermaids.
well,
and I know of mermaids who won't eat fish at all.
Well, I wish I'd had their numbers,
because she thinks it's cannibalism.
Now, this is
Fair enough.
one of those impossible decisions to make. Because I don't have any personal experience of mermaids, and I don't think anybody else in the audience has. But I tell you what we do, Clement, we did enjoy your interruption, so we give you a bonus point for that. But Marcus was interrupted, so he keeps the subject, and there are 22 seconds still available. Mermaids, Marcus, starting now.
Yes, I'm beginning to wish that you'd given the subject to Clement, because I feel rather sad to know that there are mermaids out there.
Gyles challenge.
Nicholas did give the subject to Clement. So it's a deviation. I'm beginning to wish you had given the subject to Clement.
No, he may give the subject to Clement after that challenge.
Yes, he didn't specify that. I'm just...
This programme could turn ugly, couldn't it?
No, he was referring to that last challenge, so unfortunately, Gyles, I can't give it to you on that occasion. Marcus, you got another point. You got the subject you don't want, and 15 seconds, mermaids, starting now.
Of course, the Mermaid Theatre is named after the one mermaid who successfully swam up the Thames without dying of the pollutants that exist in the water here and turning into a very nasty, brown, pulpy mess.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. In this case, and it was Marcus Brigstocke. And with the other points in the round, he's got a strong lead at the moment, just ahead of Clement, Freud, Gyles, Brandreth and Pauline, McLynn in that order. And Gyles, will you take the next round? The subject, infamy. Tell us something about infamy in just a minute, starting now.
I am Anglo-Welsh. My parents burnt down their own cottage, and therefore infamy has been part and parcel of my heritage since my birth. Indeed, my very name, Brandreth, is the subject of infamy, because if you look up in the Oxford English Dictionary, you will see that the definition is a substructure of piles. Indeed, one of my forebears was the notorious Jeremiah of the same ilk, who in fact was the last person to be beheaded for treason, hence the infamy going back for several generations. In my own circumstance, my career began with an incident of infamy that was indeed most shaming, because I was a young actor in a live radio program playing a detective. My only line was to say, that was the chair Schmidt sat in when he was shot. But unfortunately, my diction at the time was poor, and as a consequence of this, the infamy led to my not being employed almost for a generation. I went on to feel...
You're insisting.
He said generation. Twice.
No, you did say generation before.
Actually, he said indeed twice earlier, but it was so good I didn't interrupt. Isn't that terrible? I just wanted to know more about the Brandreth.
I know that was very sporting of you, Pauline, but Clement, a correct challenge, and you've naughtily got him with only 8 seconds to go, because Gyles went for 52 seconds. I think you need a round of applause for that. Clement, a point to you, and infamous with you. 8 seconds starting now.
Infamy comes from the word famous, and it means extreme vileness, absolutely nastiness of all kinds. Infamy.
So Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now moved forward. He's equal with Marcus Brigstocke in the lead. Gyles Brandreth, who went so magnificently just then, has still only got 1 point. It's not a fair game, really, is it? And Pauline, who's been lovely already, but hasn't got any points at all. But, Marcus, it's your turn to begin. Will you take the subject now of my New Year's resolution? 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Mercifully for me, my New Year's resolution has also been ratified by the United Nations, so it means not only will it be ignored by the international community, I also don't have to adhere to any promises that I will be making to myself or indeed to anybody else. But my New Year's resolution for the coming year is to clear out my garage. It's actually a lock-up that exists in Fulham, but it's full of old props from various shows that I've done, a lot of which need to be got rid of extremely quickly, the main reason being that I'm rather embarrassed about a number of them.
Clement, you challenged.
I think that was hesitation.
Yes, I think we interpret that as hesitation.
The word,
That gave it away.
Clement, you've got in with 22 seconds available. My New Year's resolution starting now.
I once made a New Year's resolution that I would give up smoking, drinking, and going out with women.
Marcus challenge.
Deviation, that's 3 New Year's resolutions.
You could say that was his resolution, but there were 3 collective things within it. So I will give you a bonus point because the audience clapped and they seem to enjoy your interpretation. Well, I give them out willy-nilly, that's my nature. And Clement, you were interrupted, so you keep the subject. 16 seconds, my New Year's resolution starting now.
I had thought that doing that would make me live longer, but it just seemed as if it were a more long time. New Year's resolutions are pretty stupid things to do because by the 2nd of January you have forgotten what they were and decided to...
So Clement Freud, speaking to Whistle Wayne, gained that other extra point and he's moved up alongside Marcus. They're both in the lead ahead of the other 2. And Clement, we'd like you to take the next round. The subject, the rat race. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I've never been to a rat race. I've been to a cockfight. But I presume rat races has a rat wearing a jacket and a colour.
Pauline challenge.
I just thought the grammar was terrible. So, I'm going to say that was deviation. How about that?
You worked so hard to work something out, didn't you?
I did,
well, no,
yeah.
well,
I'm desperate to get on the points board.
It doesn't matter. It's lovely to have you here, darling. Don't matter.
The token woman.
I don't think his grammar was all that bad, not colloquially speaking, no. So, Clement Freud, an incorrect challenge. The rat race is still with you, and there are 50 seconds available starting now.
In the 15th and 16th centuries in Ireland, there were a huge number of rat races. From Limerick to Coleraine, go where you would, and rats would come out of their traps carrying a jacket, maybe a red...
Gyles challenge.
Repetition of jackets.
Yeah, out of jackets, yes. And also, a rat can't get out of a trap usually. I mean, they usually get caught. So, Gyles, a correct challenge, and you have 39 seconds available. The rat race starting now.
The rat race, I love it. At birth, I put my children down for a table at the Ivy. I don't believe in any of this nonsense, namby-pamby stuff of the work-life balance. I believe in the rat race, ruthlessly.
Clement, you've challenged.
2 believes.
Oh, yes, you did believe it.
I do believe. I'm proud of this. I don't mind. Who cares about points?
Well...
no, you're right. I mean, the rat race, I do care about points. I got that wrong. I do. I care about points.
Clement, another point to you in 25 seconds. The rat race starting now.
A mouse contest is terrific. I think better on the whole than a rat race. I have often watched these occasions in East Anglia. Ipswich, Norwich, Cambridge, you name it, I have witnessed a rat race.
Gyles, your challenge.
I sense there was a hesitation.
You didn't even sense it was there. So, 9 seconds for you, the rat race starting now.
Dick Whittington is an extraordinary pantomime which features a rat race in good production.
Marcus challenge.
Yes, I'm sorry, deviation. There's never been a good production of Dick Whittington.
Oh, yes, there has.
I asked for that, and I'm now in hell.
That got you.
What have you done?
Right.
For that reason.
Well, I think that challenge of yours hasn't won you any friends, Marcus. And I'm not going to lie because... Oh, yes, it has. I've been in no less than 3 productions of Dick Whittington.
So do I get
We rest our case.
They were Pauline.
How could I?
How
I did
could
it for
you?
a cheap laugh.
I know. And I'll
I've got
show you how
lots.
generous I am, because you've got your laugh. I'll give you a bonus point.
Oh, thank you. I could do with it at the moment.
There we are. So, but who challenged? It was Marcus, an incorrect challenge. Giles was interrupted. 2 seconds on the rat race, starting now.
The rat race is the most formidable thing in the history of the world.
So Giles Brandreth was then speaking as the whistle went, getting that extra point. He's creeping up on Marcus Brigstocke, which is rather invidious thing to do. And then and Clement Freud still in the lead, one ahead. Pauline has a point or two, and
1 point.
which is lovely. No, Giles, it's your. I think you should take the next round. Nice and topical for us all. London Bridge. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
When I took part in the London Bridge Championships, I opened with a blinder, playing 3 no trumps. The event took place at Lake Navajo, which is now the home of London Bridge. In 1962, a misguided oil tycoon, thinking he was buying Tower Bridge, incorrectly purchased London Bridge and had it transported over to the United States of America to Arizona, where this competition took place. And I have to say, the cards that I was given...
Clement Freud challenge.
Why does he have to say that?
Because this is... Hard as it may seem, I mean, people won't believe this, we are paid a modest fee, and therefore there's some element of compulsion in the contract.
Yes. Yes. I quite agree, Giles. You have to keep going somehow or other, don't you?
Yeah.
And so you want to bring out those phrases, you're entitled to do it. Clement, they enjoyed your challenge. So you get a bonus point for that, but you haven't got the subject. Giles was interrupted. He keeps the subject of London Bridge. 35 seconds starting now.
London Bridge was falling down, and a slight inclination of the cranium is as adequate as a spasmodic movement of one optic to an equine quadruped utterly devoid of any visionary capacity, as the guy said to me when we were halfway across it, and really unnerved me, because I thought, if this man is going to go on talking like this, I'll have to commit suicide, throw myself into the River Thames. But how foul it looks, because there are these creatures that are half Jordan, half tins of sardines.
Yes. Clement, you challenge first, yes.
2 halves.
2 halves, half tin and half that. They're fixed, experienced player of the game. They listen, they pick up every word.
Oh, yes,
well,
they do. They don't realise that 2 halves make a whole.
No.
I was just waiting for him to continue with the song, because if he'd done London Bridge is falling down, a little bit of repetition coming up, I thought. But no.
Clement, a correct challenge. You have 10 seconds. Tell us more about London Bridge, starting now.
London Bridge is Falling Down is a song which I'm unable to sing, mostly because I have no music, but also because I simply don't believe it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Before the whistle went, Giles, you pressed your buzzer and challenged. Your light came on. What's your challenge?
There was a hesitation.
A long hesitation.
There was a long hesitation. He was waiting for the applause, the whistle,
I tell
the
you what.
glory that he thinks is his due.
No, I tell you, there's a whole full second to go on London Bridge. With you, Giles, starting now.
London Bridge historically...
Clement challenge.
Wasn't there a bit of a hesitation?
No.
I think there was.
Marcus agreed.
It was a good try, Clement, but of all people who come in more rapidly than anybody else, it's Giles with his proliferation of speech. Giles, you have half a second on London Bridge, starting now.
Fast flows the River Thames!
So Giles Brandreth speaking as the whistle went, getting that extra point. He's moved forward. He's 2 behind Clement Freud, our leader, and he's 2 ahead of Marcus Brigstocke, who's in 3rd place, and they're all a few points ahead of Pauline McLynn. And Pauline, you are going to take the next round. Of the subject, how apt for you, my darling, the Blarney Stone. 60 seconds, starting now.
In case nobody's noticed, I am, of course, Irish. And we are said to have been born having already kissed the Blarney Stone, because we can talk at an international level on behalf of our country. This isn't true. I have kissed the Blarney Stone, but...
Marcus challenge.
Repetition of kissed.
You kissed it too much.
You can never kiss enough, can you? That's what I think. That shouldn't be allowed at all.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
I'm afraid it was a repetition. So, Marcus, you've got 44 seconds. You tell us something about the Blarney Stone, starting now.
I've snogged the Blarney Stone tons, and my girlfriend was extremely angry because she claimed that my lips had become incredibly cold because it's very near to the sea, and the waves crash up over the Blarney Stone, and indeed...
Pauline challenged.
Not true. It's a deviation. The Blarney Stone is in Blarney Castle, and it is far from the sea.
Oh, I know that, but there were particularly high seas.
No. Now, you're just leading the people astray. And again, it's the youngsters in the audience that I worry for, who will be going out with impossible
No, you have put them
information.
right historically and geographically. So you have the subject back, you have a point for that, for a correct challenge, and you have 29 seconds, the Blarney Stone, Pauline, starting now.
When I kissed the Blarney Stone, I noticed that it was covered.
Darling, you said it before.
Kissed?
Yes.
I can't get away from the kissing, can I?
I know. So kissed, you got in first, Marcus. 27 seconds, the Blarney Stone, starting now.
Having not known where the Blarney Stone was, it makes the relationship...
Giles challenge.
The relationship.
Yes, the relationship.
Yes.
I was
trouble with
actually
relationship
trying
with
to
that
give a
word.
slightly Irish lilt to what I was saying.
Well.
It's fine.
Well, there we are then. It's the Blarney Stone, isn't it? 22 seconds for you, Giles.
Apparently it's in
Listen,
Somerset.
I played Irishman. I played once where the Abbey Plays. Would you like to know that?
Oh, no.
I was the only one who's there.
Could they not have gotten just a really bad Irish actor to do it?
No, Pauline, I can tell you, there were so many bad Irish actors around, they wanted someone that was a little bit more genuine, like you see. So, Giles, a correct challenge. You have 22 seconds, the Blarney Stone, starting now.
When Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde visited Blarney Castle and attempted to have physical contact with...
Marcus challenge.
Yeah, repetition of Castle from...
No, it was
I've
Pauline
not
who
said
said
it
Castle before.
Oh.
Pauline said Castle, not...
No, you're quite right. Sorry, I'm still smarting from not having known where it was.
So, Giles, you have another point for incorrect challenge, and you keep the subject. 18 seconds, the Blarney Stone, starting now.
He advised against physical contact with the Blarney Stone because he believed it would lead to disease, the illness in question being logorrhea, which results in actually making much too much of your language. Oh, yes! Oh,
yes.
blast!
Clement, you...
Oh, no! No!
Oh, yes.
Natural phrases come out, and their
He's
repetition...
so adamant, isn't he?
I
you
know.
and like me in the kissing, it's his downfall.
Yes.
You know?
With you it's the kissing,
Does
with me
this
it's
go
too
on
much.
And does that go on in real life with you too, Pauline?
The kissing,
Yes.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, I'm looking
You know,
forward to hospitality afterwards.
It's that or flashing my boobs at people. You can choose. You can choose later.
I'll have both if you don't mind.
Oh, my dear mother.
Clement, you have a correct challenge. The Blarney Stone, and 5 seconds available, starting now.
My relationship with the Blarney Stone is wholly platonic. I have stroked it, sent it Christmas presents.
So, Clement Freud, with points in the round as well as one for speaking when the whistle went, has moved forward, and he's now just in the lead ahead of Giles Brandreth, then Marcus Brigstocke, and Pauline McLynn in that order. Clement, it's your turn to begin. The subject is Maid Marian. Tell us something about that delightful lady in this game, starting now.
I think Robin Hood made Marian several times. She was his bit on the side. In the 13th or 14th century, the sheriff of
Marcus, yes.
I'm afraid there was a hesitation.
There was an yes, so Marcus, a correct
It's
challenge.
infectious, Clement, I'm sorry. You picked it up.
49 seconds, you tell us something about Maid Marian, starting now.
I've never met her, but I have spent a fair bit of time in Sherwood Forest looking for her. I believe her to be in a...
Clement challenge.
repetition of her.
Yes,
Her.
never met her. She was looking
Well, when
for
you've
her.
made Marian, you just can't get enough of her, can you? Just go back there again and again.
Correct challenge, Clement. 43 seconds. Maid Marian, starting now.
There was in that brotherhood a man called Friar Tuck, which I always thought was a Spoonerism, but actually... Yeah, well, anyway.
It seems unfair to pose that, doesn't it? Because it is so beautiful.
I feel deeply ashamed that I've buzzed in, but there was a hesitation while we all enjoyed working out exactly
He made his
what
mark and got the laugh.
reason was.
And almost retired on it. But anyway, you got in with a... It was hesitation, so I have to be fair within the rules of just a minute. 33 seconds. Maid Marian with you, Marcus, starting now.
In the recent BBC drama of...
Oh... Clement.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
That is so cruel!
There it was, was, and I walked right into it.
Now, there's the old hand of the game. You spot these things immediately. BB, yes. Clement, you're in there with 31
So
seconds.
cool.
On Maid Marian, starting now.
The British Broadcasting Corporation did a series on Maid Marian, and I can't remember who played the part, although I certainly auditioned for it. That's about all I'm
Marcus
going to say. Listen.
Yes, hesitation.
Yes, he hesitated. 17 seconds, Marcus. Maid Marian, starting now.
In the recent televised drama, they gave Maid...
Giles challenge.
Drama.
What drama did we miss?
Earlier, it was the BBC
earlier.
drama.
Oh,
His
yes,
last time
right,
he
you
spoke.
did.
Yes, he did.
I passed him on BBC before he said drama.
No.
Clement is quite right. He said drama after the buzz went. So it was an
Can I have
incorrect
a
challenge.
point?
Controversial?
Give him a bonus point.
Controversial?
Marcus, you have another point too, and Maid Marian's with you. 15 seconds starting now.
Look, my point was simply that she's an extremely pretty girl, but that she has got a rather thick neck. Now, that is fully understandable, given the fact that she is also the night watchman.
Giles challenge.
3 she's.
There were too many she's. You often let 2 go, but 3,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, Giles, you've got in. Sharp. 4 seconds. Maid Marian, starting now.
The actor John Wayne's real name was Marian Morrison, and it was because as a child he was teased cruelly.
So Giles is speaking as the whistle went. In the next point, he's now equal with Clement Freud, and they're both behind our leader, Marcus Brigstocke. As we move into the final round, and Marcus, it's your turn to begin. So will you take the subject of whippersnappers? 60 seconds starting now.
At fetish parties, it is considered extremely bad manners to turn up with a camera. However, some people do, and they're always inclined to click photographs of people whipping each other. They...
Clement challenge.
Repetition of people.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
But
he
I
said
don't
people.
want whippersnappers.
Well, neither did I. It was very embarrassing. The photographs were
got
posted on a
whippersnappers.
website.
Can I sell it?
Can you what? Anybody want to make an offer? He wants to sell it.
What do you want to sell?
Subject.
Oh.
It's all gone deadly quiet. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make a bit of humour. It doesn't work, but carry on. Clement, you have 49 seconds. Whippersnappers starting now.
You need a camera and a whip.
Who could blame him for hesitating there?
Right. Charles, you challenged.
There was a hesitation.
You did? Well, I think there definitely was. It was a halt. 48 seconds. Whippersnappers starting now.
Whippersnappers are ruling the world. The Prime Minister now goes about dressed in orange makeup, looking like Dale Winton on speed, entirely so that he looks juvenile.
Pauline, you've challenged.
Just on behalf of Dale Winton, I have to say that as far as I know, he has never taken speed.
Looking like Dale Winton would look on speed.
No,
he
that
did.
was-
He did mention looking like
All
it.
right, all
And so
right.
I think it's an incorrect challenge.
As Clement would say, I'd just like to say hello.
Darling, you've been helloing quite a lot. You've got quite a lot of points. And 36 seconds for you, Giles, on Whippersnappers starting now.
Even the Pope is younger than Sir Clement Freud. When it has come to this, we have to accept that our globe is being overrun by these whippersnappers, who may have youth on their side, but they don't have the experience, maturity, wisdom, and sense of timing that is the gift of the former Member of Parliament for Ely, one of the wisest and most physically attractive, mature men that I have ever come across. When I use that phrase, of course, I don't mean it literally, I mean it entirely figuratively. And I'm so sorry that I've mentioned that now, because obviously this particular item will have to come out, and I was about to actually hit the 60-second mark.
So the final situation is Pauline actually came from fairly well nowhere point-wise, but not in talent. But and she finished up in a magnificent 4th place. But she was only 4 points behind Clement Freud, who was in a very truly great 2nd place. And I say it's great because he was only 2 points behind, and this is very fair and very apt, Gyles Brandreth and Marcus Brigstocke, who both are equal in 1st place. So we say these are the joint winners this week. It only remains Just for me to say thank you to these four delightful players of the game, Marcus Brigstocke, Gyles Brandreth, Pauline McLynn and Clement Freud. I thank Charlotte Davis, who's helped me with the score and blown her whistle with great aplomb whenever those 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Toulousha Gilani. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here at the Mermaid Theatre in Puddledock, who've cheered us on our way magnificent. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.
And next week, Paul Merton will return to play Just a Minute with the addition of Chris Neill, Alan Cochrane and Tim Rice. That's next Monday at 6:30.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and throughout the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented and extrovert players of this game. It's a great pleasure always to welcome back, sitting on my right, that wonderful, outstanding comedian Paul Merton, and seated beside him we have a young comedian who's making a great name for himself, and it's the first time on his show, so we welcome Alan Cochrane. And seated on my left, we have that master of lyrics and musical comedy shows and a dedicated cricket follower, that is Tim Rice. And beside him, we sit another engaging comedy performer, Chris Neill. Would you please welcome all four of them? Seated beside me is Charlotte Davis, who's going to help me with the score, run the stopwatch, and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the delightful Everyman Theatre in the heart of that wonderful Regency town of Cheltenham, a gem in the whole Gloucestershire countryside. And you must realise we have a keen Gloucestershire audience here, ready to cheer us on our way as they welcome us and start the show with Alan. It's round robins. Tell us something about round robins in this game, starting now.
Obesity is a huge problem in the bird community and is nothing to do with football in any way whatsoever. Many animals... Oh, yeah. Don't repeat many. Note to self.
Paul, you challenge first.
Repetition of many, yes.
Yes, and 51 seconds available now. Round robins starting now.
Cheltenham Town Football Club's nickname are the Robins, and you couldn't find a worse team if you looked. They were terrible last week. It is awful. Your goalkeeper's just got to be sacked. He's dreadful. They're terrible on crosses. The right backs.
Tim challenge.
Two terribles.
They're awful. Too terrible, absolutely.
I don't think you'll be welcome back in Cheltenham at all. Anyway, correct challenge, Tim. And another point to you, 41 seconds, round robins starting now.
Cheltenham Town Football Club is known as the Robins, and what a magnificent side they are. A brilliant team with superb tactics, great defensive skills.
Challenge.
They're rubbish. Deviation. Absolutely rubbish.
I think according to you they're rubbish.
Yeah.
According to Tim, they're magnificent.
Yeah. Ask the audience for a vote, please.
Nah.
I think
they might be prejudiced. Tim, you have the benefit of the doubt, and 34 seconds on round robins starting now.
In particular, their goalkeeper is a man of great distinction and skill.
Paul challenge.
What's his name? This goalkeeper...
Gervais Sinclair.
He knew it. Is that true?
Another benefit of the doubt to you, Tim. Round robins is with you. 31 seconds starting now.
Gervais
Chris challenge.
Deviation. I don't believe the goalkeeper.
No, but he repeated Gervais.
Oh, Gervais, yes. Repetition of...
I said Gervais in the answer to a rather rude and aggressive question from Mr. Merton over there.
That's right.
The first time I said Gervais, it wasn't part of my ramble.
Yes, another benefit of the doubt to you, Tim, and 30 seconds on round robin starting now.
I don't know if any of you ever tried to run round a robin, but it doesn't take very long unless you have the outside track, in which case you might as well zap round an albatross.
Chris challenge.
Is it 2 rounds?
Yes, round.
Yeah, but round's on the card.
Round is on the card.
Oh, is it?
Right, yes. Round robins. You can repeat the subject or words on the subject. Right. So another point to you, Tim, a 19 seconds round robin starting now.
Albatross,
I can't imagine what your challenge is.
Repetition of albatross.
Yes. 19 seconds for you, Chris, on round robins starting now.
Apparently, Cheltenham has a football club. I think they probably are not terribly good, not amazingly bad.
Hesitation?
There was a hesitation.
Yeah.
He didn't know whether to side with Tim or sitting beside him or go with you, Paul. 13 seconds, round robins with you, Paul, starting now.
Every Christmas we go round robins because he throws by best parties you've ever come across. They are wonderful.
Chris, challenge.
Throws by best parties.
Yes. I don't think that's English as we really understand it.
I was thinking of our World Service audience.
The audience enjoyed your remark, Paul, so you get a bonus point for the humour that you evoked there. But Chris had a correct challenge, and he has 7 seconds on round robins, Chris, starting now.
At Christmas time, many people these days send very long, dull letters enclosed in their Christmas card.
No. Paul, challenge.
Repetition of Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas, yes. Yeah. And Christmas, 1 second. Round robins with you, Paul, starting now.
Come on, the robin!
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went. With other points in the round, he's moved forward. He's one ahead of Tim Rice, who's one ahead of Chris Neill, who's one ahead of Alan Cochrane in that order. And Chris, will you take the next round? The subject is all-day breakfast. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
All-day breakfast is a rather nasty idea, I think. It's night.
Alan, challenge.
Deviation, I think it's a great idea.
I know, but he can have his opinion, you see, Alan.
Oh, OK.
All right. So it wasn't a challenge when the rules are just a minute, really.
I've just got peckish.
So, Chris, another point to you. All-day breakfast, and how many seconds? 52 seconds, starting now.
52 seconds on the subject of all-day breakfast. Hurrah, I've got a lot to say. It's a meal that works very well until about 11 o'clock in the morning. After that, you don't want it at all. But before then, sausages, bacon, possibly kidneys, eggs, scrambled...
Alan, challenge.
Who has kidneys in an all-day breakfast?
No, that's what I'm saying. You have them for breakfast before 11.
I would say that that's deviation from the all-day breakfast as we know it.
I know the audience would love you to come in on it, but if you're going to have breakfast, you have kidneys. I mean, you have your really super breakfast. What do you mean I have kidneys for breakfast? When I go to a hotel, I always ask for kidneys.
Do you ever get them?
No. All right, Alan, the audience feel you should have the benefit of the doubt. You tried 3 times to get in on this subject. So 39 seconds, all-day breakfast.
Sorry, what did I do wrong?
Nothing much. It's something to do with kidneys, and the audience...
Look, I like kidneys for... You what?
You don't have kidneys in a transport cab.
Oh, it's not about bloody transport cabs, is it?
I think you should keep your private life to yourself. I really do.
The subject's not transport cabs, it's all-day breakfast, and I like kidneys any time of day I have breakfast. Thank you.
Paul gets a bonus point for his remarks, which the audience loved. Alan gets a bonus point because he's tried so hard and the audience wanted him to have it. But Chris, to be fair within the rules of just a minute, you can have kidneys for breakfast. So you have the subject. And keep going on all-day breakfast, and there are 39 seconds starting now.
I serve kidneys for breakfast all day and all night.
Tim challenged.
Repeat of kidneys.
Oh, kidneys.
It's an impossible game. 39 seconds for you, Tim, on all-day breakfast, starting now.
And in this repulsive establishment, I said to the waiter, I would like eggs, one hard...
Chris challenged.
Hesitation.
There was a little hesitation there.
I was moving from indirect to direct speech. And I felt, in the absence of punctuation, I wanted to just,
Well,
can I ask, Tim, how many millions do you have in the bank? Is this point really important?
Chris, you have another point. You have all-day breakfast, and there are 31 seconds starting now.
When I don't cook that aforementioned piece of offal, I might do liver. I love it. All-day breakfast, delicious. Other offers, well, brain. Oh, I've said offal.
Tim challenged.
Repetition, which he admitted.
Yeah, no.
Of offal. Right. Tim, you got in again. Another
Bloody
point to you. 25 seconds, all-day breakfast starting now.
I said to this roughneck git who was posing as a server in this transport...
Paul, you came in
Hesitation.
first. Yes, indeed, and no wonder. No wonder. Another point. 19 seconds, all-day breakfast, Paul, starting now.
The all-day breakfast comes into your own when it comes into your own.
Tim, challenge.
Comes into your own.
Yes,
Confusion,
your own,
repetition,
yes.
deviation, you name it. Mainly repetition.
And you have one. Which one do you want?
I'll have repetition.
You can have it. 16 seconds, Tim. All-day breakfast starting now.
At the Ritz, you can get a fabulous all-day breakfast served by a gentleman in a bow tie.
Paul, challenge.
They stop serving at midday. At the Ritz.
Not in your suite. Not in your private suite.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, no, of course
you can take it from me, Mr. Merton.
Oh, you haven't run any veins with that, you...
No, to be fair, Tim did work there as a cleaner, didn't he? He knows, he does know. He's been in the kitchens, he knows.
Yeah, I'm sure that in the Ritz, if you wanted breakfast all day, they would serve it to you. 11 seconds, Tim. All-day breakfast, starting now.
There again at the Savoy, so I've been told by a friend, because I haven't actually been there myself and certainly would never stay the night somewhere when I can just go to my own bed.
And Paul, challenge.
There's slight hesitation there.
Yes, there was. I admit it, I was crumbling.
Well, you were deviating onto the Savoy and everything, but you hadn't got to the breakfast. Paul, you've got him at 2 seconds on all-day breakfast, starting now.
Bacon, black pudding, scrambled eggs, chips if you must.
So Paul, speaking as the whistle went, has moved forward. He's 2 ahead of Tim Rice, who's 1 ahead of Chris Neill, who's 3 or 4 ahead of Alan Cochrane in that order. And Paul, we'd like you to take the next round. The subject now is the director's cut. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I once made a film and the director was half cut. It was terrible. Nothing really matched at all. Everything was out of focus, blurry images. But of course the director's cut refers to something that you get now when you buy films on DV. Well, you know the format.
Oh, there's an ace player of the game. Tim, you hoisted...
Just testing my bell.
Oh, right. So well done, Tim, but well played, Paul. 48 seconds, still with you on the director's cut, starting now.
When I listen to these audio commentaries that you buy now, they are fascinating if you hear the director say, well, the shot I was after here never quite worked, but there's one film that stars Michael Caine when he goes back to Newcastle to avenge the death of his brother, Get Carter, and the director's comments.
Alan, challenge.
No, it was a mistake. I thought
well,
it was
a hesitation, actually.
Oh, okay.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting you for. Gotcha.
So well listened, Alan, and you've got in a really sharp shot. 30 seconds for you on the director's cut, starting now.
The director's cut of Just a Minute is a real listen. You should hear it. It's wonderful. There's...
Chris, challenge.
Deviation, it's really not.
And what's your challenge within the rules of Just a Minute?
Deviation, it's not wonderful, listen.
But isn't the director's cut the show that goes out?
I don't know what we're talking about.
All-day breakfasts.
All-day breakfasts. You've still got the subject. You've got the director's cut, 24 seconds, starting now.
The director's cut of kidneys is the best bit of meat in any all-day breakfast. I love having food with...
Chris, challenge.
Sorry, there isn't a director's cut of kidneys in an all-day breakfast.
Who's
that doesn't
to say?
make any sense.
What's to say?
Well, it was an independent film in the early 60s called Kidneys. There was a massive hit.
I mean, the director could be
Is
having...
it in a series of films called The All-Day Breakfast?
The director could be having an all-day breakfast and he cut his kidney.
Is that what you meant, Alan?
That was what I was getting to. Before I was so rudely interrupted.
Right. So you have the benefit of the doubt, Alan, and you have 18 seconds on the director's cut, starting now.
The director's cut is a way of selling a film that has already been in the cinema. I have seen the director's cut of Blade Runner, which I do not understand. I have seen the...
Chris. You've gone in first, Chris, yes.
Repetition of
I have seen, yes, right. So, Chris, you've gone in this time with a correct challenge, and 6 seconds on the director's cut, starting now.
The director's cut of Just a Minute really isn't fun. What you catch is Clement Freud backstage cracking jokes.
Tim, challenge.
Repetition of Just a Minute.
Why?
That's what Alan said. I didn't say it.
Sorry, I drifted off.
No, Alan said just a minute. Right. You've still got the subject. Chris, only 1 second to go, the director's cut, starting now.
It's always the best bits.
So Chris Neill was then speaking as the whistle when gained an extra point and others in the round. He's moved forward. He's equal with Paul Merton in the lead, and they're closely followed by Tim Rice and then Alan Cochrane and Chris. Now it's your turn to begin. The subject is the last laugh. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The last laugh of the dying hyena is one of the most beautiful sounds in nature. He gathers his family around him to witness the last laugh he will make.
Is there a doctor in the house? Hesitation.
Oh, yes, hesitation, almost a full stop. Are you all right, Chris?
Yeah, I thought I was doing that quite upbeat.
But that's upbeat. I don't know what the death is like. Right. 49 seconds with you, Paul, on The Last Laugh, starting now.
The Last Laugh is a film that was made in Germany in 1927, part of the silent era, and it starred...
Tim Challenge.
No, it wasn't called The Last Laugh.
What was it called?
Oh, something like Die Last Gechuckelhaben or something.
And when the film came over here, it came over here as The Last Laugh. So the benefit of the doubt to you, Paul, and you have another point, of course. 44 seconds, The Last Laugh, starting now.
It became quite famous because it didn't use any title cards at all. Everything was expressed in mime or emotion or just a look in somebody's face. Emil Jannings, who I've mentioned twice now, so it's technically repetition.
Tim Challenge.
Repetition of that distinguished chap.
Yeah.
Right, Emil Jennings, right. Yeah. And there are 34 seconds, Tim, The Last Laugh, starting now.
The last laugh is very important. If you have the first laugh, you may well not end up in a superior position. What you need to do is to bid a man or woman or child or dog that...
Chris Challenge.
Quite a lot of oars. Or man,
yes,
or woman.
Dead right, well spotted.
We let one oar go, but too many oars
Yes.
we don't want too many oars in this show.
I'd let one go, Tim, but I can't. It'd just be... I'd be a fool to myself and to this audience. I'd be letting them down.
Chris, The Last Laugh is with you. 23 seconds starting now.
I haven't seen the film that Paul was talking about, The Last Laugh from Germany in the 1920s.
Tim Challenge.
Repetition of the...
Oh, no. Oh, Tim, come on.
Well, the subject is The Last Laugh, and you can say the words on the card.
These on the card. 20 seconds still for you, Chris, on The Last Laugh, starting now.
The last laugh is an important one to get. You're absolutely right. I'm never going to get... I can't say... I can say...
Hesitation.
I think so, yes, definitely. Right, Paul, it's back with you, and you have 14 seconds, The Last Laugh, starting now.
In a situation where you're comparing, perhaps at a gig, it's important that you're seen as the compare, to be able to introduce the act, but also to be able, three ables?
Yes, Tim Challenge.
Able.
There's too much ables, yes, right. And Tim, you've got him with 4 seconds on The Last Laugh, starting now.
Come with me now to the plains of Africa, where hyenas...
Paul Challenge.
I've got plans. I can't just go to the South Plains of Africa. I need more warning than that. Come with me now. I thought this gig was in Cheltenham, not the plains of Africa.
Oh, yes.
What's my challenge?
Your challenge is...
Spontaneous travel arrangements.
Paul, we love the interruption. Will you get a bonus point for that? But Tim was interrupted incorrectly, so he gets another point. And The Last Laugh is with you, Tim, starting now.
When these animals of the jungle cackle, it's a ghastly noise.
So, at the end of that round, Tim Rice was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. Chris is one behind Paul, who's in the lead. Alan's catching them up, and it's Alan's turn to begin. The subject is, I think it's a good one for you, Alan, down the back of my sofa. Can you... I'm sure you have some interesting information to impart on that subject. 60 seconds starting now.
Down the back of my sofa is an enormous magnet that draws all the household clutter that ever exists. In the back of my sofa there is a pair of socks, a magnet... Hey,
yes,
it's hard, this game, isn't it?
It is hard. And the idea of doing lists is actually tougher than people think.
Yeah.
Because you do err often in between. So Paul got in on the err, 48 seconds, down the back of my sofa, Paul, starting now.
Down the back of my sofa are many extraordinary things. I've got an original Nicholas Parsons from the 19th century. And if you buff it up, it looks as good as gold. I think that's one of the medals that are in it.
Chris Challenge.
Deviation will be from the 18th.
No, mine is a worthless reproduction.
And the audience clapped when he said that. And I came out at the beginning before the show and said how lovely you all were. How beautiful and how a joy it was to be back in Cheltenham.
They're a keen judge of human nature.
So, Chris, I'll show you how generous I am. They enjoyed your interruption.
Thank you.
And your rudeness to the chairman. Get a bonus point
You
for it.
come here.
Oh. The audience...
I've never kissed a man before. Certainly not one as old as that.
Well, surely that's deviation, isn't it?
Well, Chris Neill gets a point for his rudeness to the chairman because they enjoyed it. Alan gets a point because they enjoyed his challenge.
Do I not get one for kissing you?
I can't give you too many, darling.
No, all I can see is Mrs. Parsons is out there and she's thinking, oh, thank God, a night off.
That's her laughing now.
Oh, dear, she's hiding under the seat, actually. Alan gets one because they enjoyed his comment, but Paul was the one who was speaking and interrupted, so you keep the subject, Paul, and you have 37 seconds starting now.
I took it to the Antiques Roadshow and they examined it for me and they said, do you know what this is worth? They said, puck all. And that's really, really disappointing because I decided...
Alan challenged.
2 reallys. Really,
yes,
really
yes,
disappointing.
yes, really. Yeah. So, well, listen, Alan, you're getting the idea of the game now. Right.
Give him another point for patronisation.
So, Alan, you have a correct challenge. You have 30 seconds on Down the Back of My Sofa, starting now.
Down the back of my sofa is a gold doubloon in the hand of a dead pirate. I've no idea how that got there, but it's right.
Paul challenge.
It's probably the magnet drew it in.
That's exactly what it is.
That's how it got there.
So, Paul, a point to you because they enjoyed what you said, but Alan was interrupted, so he gets a point, and he keeps Down the Back of My Sofa. 24 seconds starting now.
I got a time machine next week that is down the back of my sofa. I really enjoy travelling around.
Tim challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes. Down the Back of My Sofa, Tim is with you with 16 seconds available, starting now.
My Uncle Arthur went missing for several months in June, July and August 1956, and a search party was sent out all round our enormous estate. In the end, as we sat back after an unsuccessful day's searching, we wondered where there was a movement underneath the sofa, and it was Uncle Arthur.
So Tim Rice kept going till the whistle went, and I have to tell the listeners, he did keep going under incredible provocation, because Chris Neill, sitting beside him, was trying to stare him out and disturb him. But he's now equal in second place with Chris Neill. They're 2 points behind our leader, Paul Merton, and catching them up fast is Alan Cochrane. Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is January sale. It's upon us now, so talk about it if you can, starting now.
Well, the January sales traditionally come after December. I've always found that a good way of going about my business. I've never been one of those people who's been able to think further ahead and think I could get lots of Christmas presents now when they're very cheap in the January sales and then hand them out in an effort of largesse.
Tim challenge.
I think he just sort of gradually slipped into hesitation and confusion.
I don't think he hesitated. He would keep going. He hardly drew breath. I mean...
well, there was a long word which sounded to me like he was...
No. Benefit of the doubt to Paul. He didn't hesitate. 46 seconds. January sale, Paul, starting now.
Some people queue up outside Harrods.
Chris challenged.
Repetitive people.
Yes, there were other people before. So, Chris, you've got 44 seconds. January sale, starting now.
The January sales used to be quite an exciting event that only took place in January. Now they run all year long.
Tim challenged.
He ground to a halt.
He did. He made his point.
I just wanted to make
his
a statement, and that was it.
That's right. Made his point. Waited for the laugh. Didn't come. So he paused.
There it is. He was coming over the hill. It was late. That was it. That was the laugh.
Was it?
It sounded like your laugh, Nicholas, but it was actually Chris's from 30 seconds before.
Oh. So I only get them second hand, do I? Right.
You haven't got your own laugh since 1968.
Oh.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Oh, Paul.
It's not true.
You're worse than usual this time. Well, I don't know why.
No, that's not true.
Tim, a correct challenge. January sale. With you, how many left seconds? 38 seconds, starting now.
It's all very well rushing to the January sales, but the trouble is everybody else in every town and every...
Alan challenge.
There's quite a few everys.
There were indeed, Alan. So well listened, and you've got in with 31 seconds on January sale starting now.
In the January sale, I like to buy bargains because I was brought up by my mum who said, don't get anything unless it's heavily discounted. We're poor. We're on free school meals. Get anything that you want, but make sure it's reduced.
Tim, challenge.
Two anythings.
The word two anythings, I'm afraid, yes. So 18 seconds, January sale, starting with you, Tim, starting now.
When I was a child, we were so stinking rich. My mother said, for goodness sake, don't buy anything in January because you'll just get all the tat they've left and couldn't get rid of in December. It's crap, it's junk, don't go near it. It's very important that you buy in June, July, August, September, October or November when prices are...
Paul challenge.
Did your mum really say it's crap?
Yes. It warped my childhood.
So are you prepared for the British public to think that your mother used words like crap to gain a point in this game?
Well, it's a tough call, Paul, but yes.
Do I believe that his mother said crap? I don't know. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And maybe she did slip up and she'd had a couple of drinks or something. And benefit of the doubt, Tim, and 1 second starting now.
As for my dad,
Right. So Tim Rice was then speaking as the whistle went. In the extra point, he's crept up on a leader, Paul Merton. He's just 2 ahead of Chris Neill, who's a few ahead of Alan Cochrane. They're in that order as we go into the final round. Oh, Chris, here's something for you to go on. Stuff and nonsense. So talk about stuff and nonsense, 60 seconds starting now.
Stuff and Nonsense is Cheltenham's premier gay night spot. It opens at 11 a.m. for an all-day breakfast and doesn't close until dawn. The fun to be had there is astonishing. There are transvestites the like of which...
hesitation. Yeah, there was a hesitation, yes. So he said transvestite and hesitated. And 46 seconds for you on Stuff and Nonsense, Paul, starting now.
Well, Stuff and Nonsense is by many ways the ingredients of comedy, if you look at it really. Stuff is stuff that you do. Nonsense is nonsense, where you take some situation and perhaps find some surreal angle on it or exaggerate for comic effect. If you look at the history of the comedy writing, you can see that something like, for example, Charlie Chaplin in the early 1920s, his films were full of stuff and nonsense, but people were flocking to go and see them. He was one of the most popular people in the entire world. It seems impossible to think of it now that even in China, India, Nairobi, everywhere, he was a universally known figure. Stuff and Nonsense was also a nickname that Laurel and Hardy were given in Norway because their own names, which I've just mentioned before, which I won't say again now, didn't translate that well into the local language, so they were called Stuff and Nonsense, and people, of course, would recognise them from the twin bowler hats.
So Paul Merton, our very experienced player of the game, showed how to play this game in great style and with great panache and kept going for many seconds until the whistle went. Gained that extra point for doing so and increased his lead. So let me give you the final score. Alan Cochrane triumphed in 4th place. One of the most triumphant 4th places I've ever seen, because a lot of points were scored in this particular show. And Chris Neill and Tim Rice both finished equal together in 2nd place. So Alan must have been in 3rd place. I've just worked that one out. So well done, Alan.
I've done better.
Yes. Out in the lead, a few points ahead of them all, was Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, this week you are our winner. It only remains to say thank you to our 4 intrepid players of this game, Paul Merton, Tim Rice, Alan Cochrane and Chris Neill. I think Charlotte Davis, who's helped me keep the score, blown her whistle with great style. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this lovely game. We thank our producer, Talusha Galani, and we're deeply indebted to this lovely audience here at the Everyman Theatre in Cheltenham, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. I think they've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed it. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.
And Just a Minute returns at the same time next week here on BBC Radio 4.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented, extravagant players of the game. And seated on my right, we have that outstanding comedian Paul Merton, and seated beside him, a comedy performer and writer, Neill, and seated on my left, representing the distaff side, that lovely, entertaining comedian presenter, Sue Perkins, and beside her, another comedy performer and also a comedy writer, that is Tony Hawks. Will you please welcome all four of them? Thank you. Beside me sits Charlotte Davies, who's going to help me with the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the beautiful, ancient Theatre Royal in that lovely seaside resort of Brighton. And as you can hear, we've got a vociferous Sussex audience just waiting for us to start. So we begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, here's an odd one to start with. All things Brighton beautiful. Oh, yes, you've got it, haven't you? 60 seconds as usual, and you start now.
All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small. That hymn was used by James Herriot to write a couple of his books about being a vet in the Yorkshire Dales. Is Brighton a beautiful place? Well, of course it is. You only have to walk down by the seafront, look up at the architecture, a lot of it's Regency, breathe in the air that comes from the briny surface that rolls in waves against the shore. Walk along the pier, perhaps dressed as a woman. It's Friday night. Why not? Who challenged?
Your friend Neill Malarkey has challenged.
Well, I'm sorry, we were talking about things bright and beautiful, and you dress as a woman is not bright. Or beautiful.
I beg to differ.
I think seeing Paul work along the beach, dressed as a woman, would be something really quite beautiful.
You've picked me up twice by accident.
And the shock you had when you discovered the truth. Yeah. Anyway, Neill, I don't think he was deviating sufficiently from the subject. He
was deviating somewhat, but...
He was deviating, but it wasn't... I mean, down in Brighton, it's not devious, is it, to do that? No, I think you have the benefit of the doubt, Paul, and you keep the subject, and there are 32 seconds available, all things bright and beautiful, starting now.
Max Miller's costume was bright and beautiful. I'm so pleased there's a statue being put up to him at the other theatre just down the road from here, the Brighton Dome. He was a fantastic comedian. Nicholas no doubt remembers him well. He'd come walking onto the stage and he'd say...
Sue, challenge.
Repeat of walking. He was walking along by the sea.
That's right, he was. You were walking beside the sea and you were breathing in the air, and now you're walking down there. So Sue Perkins, listen well, and she's got in, and she gets a point for a correct challenge, of course, takes over all things bright and beautiful, and you have 20 seconds starting now.
Whilst walking by the sea, I came across a rather strange she-creature, which I approached and noticed it was Paul Merton, wearing clogs and a tight A-line skirt, which for my money neither suited the beautiful curve of his leg, which resembles something approaching an upturned bottle of fine champagne. I said, away with you, sir, you can't possibly get trade tonight, but for sure there was a huge queue of people.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Sue Perkins, and at the end of that round, she has a lead over Paul Merton and Neill and Tony, who's yet to speak, actually. That's the situation as Neill takes the next round. The Fountain of Youth. Looking at you, I can see why it's been chosen for you. And there are 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Were the Fountain of Youth to exist, would it be wise to visit this place? Youth is overrated, surely. With age comes experience, nostalgia. I'm 67, you know.
I'm older than that, but I don't say nostalgia.
Well, that's the point.
I say nostalgia, I don't say what you say.
Nostalgia is what you get when you're old.
But don't you remember when nostalgia was pronounced nostalgia?
Isn't nostalgia when you look back wistfully about food?
Yes. So you're just...
Well, it's deviation from language.
As we understand it, that's right, yes, we accept that, Paul. So you have the subject, the Fountain of Youth, and 47 seconds starting now.
Nicholas washes his underpants in the Fountain of Youth. That's why they look absolutely pristine and wonderful, as if he'd bought them yesterday. In fact, they're army issue. They're mob pants. He's been wearing them.
Tony, challenge.
Repetition of pants.
There were too many pants.
I thought I had underpants first time. Underpants, then pants.
You did?
Yeah.
Yes.
How right
Yes.
you are.
Yeah.
How clever you are. Oh.
It's like I've played the game before, isn't it?
So, and thank goodness I listen as well.
Yes, thank goodness you're here.
Yeah.
Best chairman we've got, best chairman we've got.
You couldn't get half your laughs if I wasn't here, could you?
I'd buy a budgie.
37 seconds are still available. Incorrect challenge, Paul. A point to you, and you keep the subject. The Fountain of Youth, starting now.
He is an extraordinary figure, our esteemed chairman. When you see him walking down the promenade, a little glint in his eye, and ladies of a certain age, those born about 1697, give him a look as if to say, if I was to perhaps fall in love.
Sue challenge.
I withdraw, so I thought it was about to be a hesitation, but there wasn't.
And he was teetering on it, but didn't quite get there.
Yeah, but a teeter isn't one.
No,
so
that's
I
right.
apologise.
So,
So goodbye.
Paul, you still have the subject.
Yes.
Another point and 23 seconds on the Fountain of Youth, starting now.
One way to stay young is to enjoy what you do. That's a recipe for success, but it's not always easy for us to be employed in a job that we particularly like. I worked for the civil service for 3 years, from 1977 through and
Sue challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was, because you realised it's a mistake then. Right. Sue, you have 10 seconds available, and a point, of course. The Fountain of Youth is with you, starting now.
The Fountain of Youth is in Saltdean, and therefore the residents have decided to keep it an ultimate secret. No tourist must venture there and partake of the healthy waters which bestow upon those who drink them the most...
So Sue Perkins was speaking then as the whistle went, and an extra point for doing so. And she's taken the lead, 1 ahead of Paul Merton, and 3 ahead of Neill Malarkey and Tony Hawkes. Tony, we'd like you to take the next round. The subject is, there's nothing like a dame. And of course it is, while we record this, the pantomime season, so it's very apt. And will you tell us something about the subject in this game, starting now?
There is nothing like a dame. It was a song taken from South Pacific, written by Hodges and Rogers. What's in this water?
Stop him taking absinthe.
Yes. I do remember Hodges and Rammerstein. They were a deviation from...
Rogers and Hammerstein, was it?
It was Rogers and Hammerstein,
Hodges
yes.
and Rogers.
And Hodges and Rogers.
Well, he was known as Hodges to his mate. Hodges Hammerstein, they called him.
You can't get out of it that way.
No, I can't, can I?
Paul, you have the subject, you have a point, you have 54 seconds. There's nothing like a dame, starting now.
It's one of those songs that you expect to hear in musical theatre. Gyles Brandreth, who sometimes does this show, was in a show...
Tony, you got back in again.
Yes, a repetition of show.
Yes, indeed there was. So you've got nothing like a dame back with you. 48 seconds, starting now.
And Hammerstein, of course. And what we all know about this particular piece of work.
Paul challenge.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he said Anne Hammerstein as if to indicate that Hodges, Rogers and Hammerstein had written South Pacific, which of course is deviation because Hodges had nothing to do with it.
Where was Rogers?
I think you're struggling a bit on that one.
I thought it was brilliant.
Well, I think we should give you a point because the audience enjoyed what you said, but we knew what he wanted to say.
Yes.
He slipped up. He did an alliteration there on the words, and so we give you the benefit of the doubt, Tony. You keep the subject. You have a point. There's nothing like a dame. You have 42 seconds, starting now.
It was written in a period when they were not politically correct. It includes the lyrics, nothing looks like a dame, nothing cooks like a dame.
Sue challenge. 2 nothings, but it's on the card,
Yes,
so
it
you
is.
can't have it.
So what I've done there is another spectacular own goal. I'm going to keep on whacking them in my own net until we finish here, and then I shall leave under a blanket.
You don't need to. We love having you. Your contribution's immeasurable.
He started again. Help me.
Another point to you, Tony. 33 seconds. There's nothing like a dame, starting now.
As we perform on this stage at the Theatre Royal Brighton, the set behind us reveals that Aladdin, a pantomime, is here. Dame, of course, is a crucial figure in this particular form of entertainment, of which I've no doubt most of the audience have come and supported in their loyal way that they are likely to do, even though they'll find it dreadfully.
Neil challenge.
He just looks like he's going to expire.
He does. He does look like that, doesn't he?
I I must say that
I don't want his blood on my hands. That's all I care.
I must say, that is the joy of watching Just a Minute recorded. He did look as if he was going to explode. He was keeping going with tremendous nervous energy expressed on his face. And, Neill, thank you for drawing our attention to that. We all saw it, actually, but you got a laugh.
That was a medical intervention.
Yes. But you got a very good laugh for your interruption.
Thanks so much.
There. So we give you a bonus point, because the audience enjoyed what you said. But Tony gets the point because he's interrupted. He keeps the subject with 15 seconds to go on. There's nothing like a dame starting now.
I do voiceovers. Like Dame Judi Dench or Dame Peggy Ash.
Paul challenge.
It's too slow.
You changed that one, didn't you? You were going to go a repetition of Dame to it's
No, it's going too slow. He's drawing out
Is that your challenge?
Yeah.
No, he did repeat Dame, but it's too late now.
No, but that's on the card.
Oh, that's on the card, of course.
Yes.
It gets you sometimes, right?
It's just a Dame, Peg a day, you know.
No, I don't even
but he didn't actually come to a halt, so I think he was illustrating something, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He keeps the subject 9 seconds. There's nothing like a dame. Tony, starting now.
Dame, of course, is another word for women.
Sue challenge.
Repetition of course.
Yes, you did say of course before.
It says it all the time.
So, Sue, you've got in this time with 7 seconds on. There's nothing like a dame starting now.
I do enjoy pantomime, but I find of late the whole genre has changed, whereupon once upon a time you would...
Tony challenge.
Well, I was going to say repetition of upon, but whereupon is one word, isn't it, you see?
Yes, whereupon is one word.
Was it grammatically faulty?
No, it wasn't.
We'd be here all night.
It was those keen, sharp challenges.
We'll let it go.
A keen, sharp challenge was incorrect, so he's given you another point, and you only have 1 second to go on There's Nothing Like a Dame, Sue, starting now.
I like a horse.
So Sue Perkins was again speaking as a whistle went, and for other points in that round she's moved forward. She's now 3 ahead of Paul Merton, and she's 4 ahead of Tony Hawkes, who's leapt forward, and Neill's just behind him. And Paul, I think it's your turn to begin. So the subject now is the end of my tether. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I find it very difficult to reach the end of my tether. I have an extremely long tether. It's one of the longest tethers in this part of England. And I walk down towards the end of my tether, and I think to myself, I'm going to need a packed lunch for this one, because it's a hell of a hike. Put your big sturdy boots on, 10 miles, you're still only halfway up the tether, then you think to yourself, I'll have myself a nice sandwich.
No challenge.
Did you say yourself more than once?
I'm not answering questions at this stage until I've seen my lawyer.
He repeated another word, but not yourself.
Oh, that one he repeated. That was repetition.
No, he didn't repeat that one. He repeated another one, which I can't tell you about. So, because unless you...
Why, have you forgotten what it was?
Yeah.
I know what it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
You keep out of it, Nicholas. You let us do it. Trying to get in on our act, do you?
Paul, you have 40 seconds on the end of my tether, starting now.
While working for Barnum's Circus, I was tied up next to the lion cage, and it was awful. I had enough rope...
Sue challenge.
Slight hesitation. Either that or mime was being employed.
No. I will give you hesitation on that one, and give you 34 seconds at the end of my tether, starting now.
It was while interrailing in Europe I came across the end of Paul's tether. It had stretched some 300 miles across the Channel and through the incredible wastes of northern France and onwards to the other bit of geography that I never studied in Europe, next to France, the one on the right.
Neill challenge.
I think, try as she might, she did say Europe twice.
Yes. 18 seconds, Neill, the end of my tether, starting now.
At the end of my tether is a small chipmunk called Phil. Such fun we have together, his tether pulling as he goes to a small place called Pole.
It was a hesitation there.
Yes, afraid it was.
Yeah.
So, Paul, you're back in on the tether with 7 seconds to go. At the end of my tether, starting now.
My tether is made of leather, and I think that's how it should be. If it was made of felt,
Tony challenge.
Repetition of Maid?
Yes, Maid of, quite right. 2 seconds, you've got him with 2 seconds to go. Tony, on the end of my tether, starting now.
My tether is so enormous.
So Tony Hawks was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's moving forward very rapidly. He's now equal with Paul Merton in second place, 2 behind Sue Perkins and just ahead of Neill Malarkey. That is the sequence, that is the order. And Neill, we'd like you to take the next round. The subject is All Mod Cons. 60 seconds starting now.
All Mod Cons is a wonderful album by The Jam. Those boys from Woking, led by Paul Weller, sang their hearts out. What crable-bar.
So challenged.
I was about to list the tracks on the album. What crable-bar? It's a place in Woking.
Sue, what is your challenge?
That he was imitating the mating cry of the bull chaffinch, which isn't part of the English language.
No, it actually isn't the mating cry of the bull chaffinch, because I've heard it.
I bet you have, the old roue.
So within the rules of just a minute, what was your challenge?
Hesitation. It was a sort of deviation from the English language. It was a deviation from sense.
I think he was trying to reproduce. Right, I think he was trying to produce the sound that they did make, that particular pop group did. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
Nicholas, have you ever listened to an album by The Jam? Did they ever do this?
It was Crable Bar.
Well, you play it backwards, it sounds exactly like that.
Yes. And my gramophone was running down at the time. So. Now listen, Colin, Neill hasn't played the game as often as the rest of you, so give him the benefit of the doubt.
English isn't my first language.
Really? Right. 49 seconds, all mod cons with you, Neill Malarkey, starting now.
Other Jam records.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of Jam.
47 seconds, all mod cons starting now, Tony.
Brighton is famous for its mods and rockers, certainly during the 60s. Now, if one of the mods was to be offending...
Neill challenge.
He looks uncomfortable again. But mods is on the thing. He repeated mods.
Mods, repetition of mods.
Oh, mods, plural. Thanks so much. Yeah. He said mods, plural. And mod cons is the thing. I knew that.
Yes, repetition of mods. That's very good, Neill. So you've got the subject. Time starts now.
This is how I run the show. I let them have their head, so we get as many laughs as possible. And, Paul, we give you a bonus point for that because I enjoyed it. You have the subject, Neill, because you've got the correct challenge via Paul. And 39 seconds, all mod cons starting now.
Cons, of course, means convicts. Those who are modern are mod cons. They use iPods, mobile phones, grilled chicken. This is the way...
So challenge.
It's not really a challenge, more a question. How would modern convicts use grilled chicken?
Well...
as an assault weapon.
Well... No, not an assault weapon. This is
a means of escape.
They want to get away. They don't want to use a sandwich because they have wheat issues. They want a low-carb diet, so they have grilled chicken.
Listen, you want another point. You've got it. And you have 28 seconds on all mods cons starting now.
Should you meet a mod con, don't say hello. Merely wink in a...
Sue challenge.
Hesitation?
That's hesitation, yes, Sue. So you got all mod cons, and you have 22 seconds starting now.
I was once conned by a mod who said, jump on the back of my moped, wear a parka, you'll look cool, and so I did. And then people started spitting at me, and there was an enormous target on my back, which people used to fire missiles in Croydon.
Paul challenge.
A repetition of people.
People, yes, there were too many people there, I'm afraid. 10 seconds are still available. Paul, tell us something about all mod cons starting now.
Well, the album that Mr. Malarkey refers to by The Jam features many wonderful tracks like Down in a Tube Station at Midnight or A Bomb in Wardour Street. Oh, how we dance!
So, Paul Merton was speaking then as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's still 3 points behind Sue Perkins. He's just ahead of Tony Hawks and a few points ahead of Neill Malarkey. And, Tony, I think it's about time you started again. The subject now is, a lovely one, hot potato. 60 seconds starting now.
When I was at school, we had a PE teacher who told us to treat the basketball like a hot potato. He meant that he wanted us to pass it quickly. Unfortunately, we ate it. But that's particular tragic thing that happened in his life. He went on to become something else. I won't tell you about that now.
Well, he just descended into drivel, isn't it? Lots of he's, repetition of he did this.
He did it. Yeah,
this.
you did have so many he's. We let one or two go, but I mean 4. Yes, all right, Paul. Benefit of the doubt. And there are 41 seconds available. Hot potatoes starting now.
I read in the paper the other day you're more likely to have a heart attack in a hospital than in a snack bar, so no, well...
Tony, you challenged me.
Yes, I think there was a slight hesitation.
I think it was. In 36 seconds available, Tony. A hot potato starting now.
A hot potato is a potato that's extremely attractive to other potatoes. Perhaps Brussels sprouts, also in the greengrocers, might lean across and say, wow, that's a hot potato, baby. Look at the way it's winking at me. Perhaps after the shop closes, we can get together and make a salad or something like that. This...
Paul Chan.
Sorry, is this a Brussels sprout saying all this? You don't get Brussels sprouts in salads.
Oh, I eat them all the time.
Brussels sprouts in salads?
I love raw Brussels sprouts. They're
in a
wonderful.
salad?
In a salad, yes.
This one's leaning over as well.
Yeah, and winking.
Well, I've no evidence for the right or wrongness of that. I just know you don't find them in salads.
Well, yes, you do. You can put them in a salad. There's
Brussels
no reason.
sprouts.
Brussels sprouts. You cut off the end and cut them up and put them in a salad.
Really?
Instead of,
With a hot potato?
Yes. It's like it's a little bit.
I like the way this is going.
Anyway,
I'm with you on this, Nicholas.
You can use them, and I definitely use them, because I love my raw Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
I don't know what it says about me, but there are the facts that I've revealed for the whole nation to know.
It says you're barely civilised.
It means that Tony has another point, and 14 seconds, hot potatoes starting now.
I haven't revealed this thus far in the show, but I was brought up in Brighton, and I used to walk home from a night out on the tiles, past Spudulike, and have a hot potato when completely arseholed. That's how much I did.
Right, so Tony was speaking as a whistle when we gained that extra point. We have an interesting situation because we're moving into the final round, actually. So I'll give the situation as we do that. Neill is lagging just a little in 4th place, but he hasn't been quite as regular player as the others. But we have 1 point separating Paul Merton, Tony Hawks and Sue Perkins in that order as we go into the final round. And Paul, we're going to ask you to take it. The subject is the icing on the cake. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
The icing on the cake when I come to record Just a Minute is to be able to sit and chat with all the competitors afterwards as we lie around the hotel discussing how the programme may end.
I think he's ready to lie around the hotel already.
So, Tony, your challenge, I must know for the rules.
Yes, I think a deviation.
A deviation or hesitation,
English
whichever you like.
language or whatever.
49 seconds, Tony, the icing on the cake, starting now.
The icing on the cake in this show is when you are interrupted, but Nicholas gives you a bonus point. Such a lift to the morale that is. Almost like having icing...
Paul Town.
Well, if you're interrupted, Nicholas doesn't give you a bonus point. He gives a bonus point to the person
He's
who
going
does
to
the
now, you watch.
interrupting. If you yourself have been talking on the subject and you keep the subject, that's the point you get and you keep the subject, but that's not a bonus point.
No point, but you made your point. Very clever.
Yeah.
Very shrewd, and absolutely true, actually. So you have a point for that.
Thank you.
Correct challenge. And you have 38 seconds. You tell us something more. He is correct, and you're not running the show.
Hello. Nicholas, there's one of you, and there's about 700 around. And some of them are from Saltdean.
One of them's got a rope.
Paul, it was a correct challenge, a very clever one too. So you have 38 seconds. You take over the icing on the cake, starting now.
This show is represented by 40 years of appearing on the...
Neill challenge.
Repetition of...
No, Neil's light came on first. So it's your challenge.
Actually, I don't know that I did, but I was thinking of saying... He repeated show, didn't he?
He did it before.
He said show in the previous bit.
That's right.
didn't he?
Yes, you did. He talked about the show before. Whoever presses their buzzer first, a light comes on in front of me. It was yours, Neill. So correct challenge. And you have the subject.
Calm down, all right, you know. We've all had a drink. Let's just have a laugh together. We'll go back and lie down in the hotel later, all right?
Not with you, if you don't mind.
Oh, you've changed the tune.
Yes.
35 seconds for you, Neill. The icing on the cake, starting now.
The icing on the cake refers to the pièce de résistance, that final detail without which nothing would be complete. It's the final thing.
Tony challenged.
Did he say final before? Repetition of final?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
And there we are. But it was his way he was doing it, his animated delivery.
That's his business. I keep out of it.
So, Tony, you have a point, the subject. 23 seconds, the icing on the cake, starting now.
Children sometimes eat the icing on the cake and then leave the sponge bit. Very cruel thing to do to the mother who spent the time making that particular delicacy for them to...
Sue challenge.
It's like stumble over delicacy? Deviation from the word delicacy?
I think it's cruel to eat only part of a cake.
Yeah.
That can't be called cruel.
No, it was cruel to the mother who made the cake. I accept Tony's premise.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I think it was very unkind of that child not to eat the cake.
Is this something you want to talk about, Nicola? Something that happened to you, maybe, when you were much
Such
younger?
tension for knowing which way this adjudication will go.
Benefit of the doubt to Tony, the icing on the cake, 12 seconds, starting now.
I haven't made any cakes for years. It's very tiring. You've got to put them in the oven and watch the time and make sure everything's all right. Icing them afterwards is also particularly difficult. I don't get involved in that sort of thing. Leave it to...
Well, they all got points in that round, and the final situation was Neill Malarkey, who hasn't played quite as often as the others, finished up in a very fine fourth place. Did very, very well. He was a few points behind Paul Merton, who was in a third place. He was only 1 point behind Sue Perkins, who was in second place, and she was 4 points behind Tony Hawk. So we say, Tony, this week, you are a winner. It only remains for me to say thank you to these four delightful players of the game. Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, Tony Hawks and Neill Malarkey. I also thank Charlotte Davis, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle very well. And also we're indebted to our producer, Talusha Gilani. And we are very indebted to Ian Messiter, who thought of this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience at the Theatre Royal in Brighton, who seem to have enjoyed themselves. We've enjoyed ourselves. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes!